From birth, he was the strongest magic prodigy in his family. However, the rapid advancement of technology left traditional mages in the dust. That's because once an AI chip is implanted in the back of the neck, one can easily spam spells without needing complex incantations. Just because he couldn't integrate with AI, Shin Haun went from being a genius to a good-for-nothing despised by everyone. However, he was the only one who could read the Emperor's forbidden grimoire, while others couldn't even open it. From then on, he became the Emperor's disciple and inherited all of his magic. AI magic, which could be cast instantly without incantations, was already powerful, but the main character's magic was even more overpowered, able to freely change shape into anything, be it a bird in the sky or a fish in the water. In 3 days, Haun has a midterm competency evaluation. The instructor announced that this exam's format would be a knockout tournament. Students who fail to meet the standard will be expelled from the academy. As soon as class ended, a silver-haired punk came looking for Haun to start trouble. He was a second-year student named Sahyuk, and also Haun's opponent in the upcoming exam. The moment he saw our protagonist, the guy aggressively trash-talked, saying a failure like Haun wasn't worthy of being his opponent. But the truth is, 5 years ago, he got thrashed so badly by Haun that he's still salty about it. The incredibly arrogant punk declared that Haun would definitely be expelled this time. However, contrary to what Sahyuk imagined, his attitude was completely calm. Calling someone a failure when you were beaten to tears by that same failure years ago. Talk about a massive self-own. Hearing this, Sahyuk turned purple with rage and uncontrollably grabbed Haun by the collar. But he didn't care, forcefully swatting his hand away and bluntly declaring, "Once a genius, always a genius. A small fry like you is not even on my level." After teaching Sahyuk a lesson, Haun turned and walked away. The next day, news of the prodigy Shin Haun's return flooded online news sites. He knew very well that Sahyuk had a hand in this article appearing on the front page. He paid for the article, aiming to hype him up to the heavens only to later crush him into the ground. But he had no idea that the more public attention Haun received, the more it benefited him. On the day of the midterm evaluation, everyone had gathered in the stands. As soon as Sahyuk stepped into the arena, he smirked contemptuously. He even admitted that he had someone write the article, wanting Haun to never be able to hold his head up again. But Haun didn't even bother to react. To him, the guy was just another nameless nobody. Nothing more. Those provocations pushed Sahyuk to his limit. His finger pointed straight at Sahyuk as he declared he would take him down with just the first spell. In the stands, whispers and murmurs spread ceaselessly about this shocking declaration. This only made Sahyuk more flustered and angry. With beads of sweat on his forehead, he stammered, "How dare a lowlife like you look down on me?" He raised a hand to bite his nails. His brows furrowed in indignation. The referee raised his hand and blew a long whistle. The midterm exam for the second-year students of Oberon Academy. The first match begins. Sahyuk quickly seized the initiative, raising his hand to cast first, launching fireballs toward Haun. He casually dodged to the side, having already predicted his opponent's next move would be bombardment magic. At that moment, the chip on Sahyuk's neck continuously emitted small sparks of electricity. Sahyuk shouted the name of the spell. "Third circle magic, bombardment." Haun realized he had guessed correctly, a triumphant smile spreading across his lips. A massive explosion was unleashed, aimed directly at Haun's position. Dust and smoke billowed everywhere. The stands once again erupted in an uproar. Sahyuk smiled confidently and said, "This is what you get for being so arrogant." As the smoke gradually cleared, Sahyuk frowned with a horrified expression. Haun stood firm, his body completely unharmed, without a single scratch. "Impossible! You're not hurt at all!" He hurriedly summoned his spell menu again and shouted, "Take this!" He launched another 3 fireballs. Haun immediately gathered tiny droplets of water on his fingertip and softly called out, "Water." Instantly, a stream of water under his control formed a solid shield in front of him. Seeing his attacks repeatedly nullified with ease, Sahyuk's face began to pale with shock. My special magic, bombardment, was blocked that easily. Meanwhile, Haun just smiled lightly, his eyes focused on the swirling water before him. Outside the arena, a man was watching intently from above. He murmured, "Even though it's just first circle magic, the casting speed is impressive." The secretary standing beside him looked puzzled. "Why did you change your schedule at the Blue Tower just to watch this student's match? Do you know something about Haun's magic?" The man, with light brown hair and eyes, wore an elegant suit and looked very knowledgeable about techniques. He simply replied, "No," he explained while his eyes remained fixed on Haun's figure in the arena below. "I just read an article about the Prodigy's return. I was curious, so I came here." The secretary was a bit confused. "So it was just a coincidence?" He chuckled in response. "Ha! Even so, If rumors spread that the master of the Blue Tower and an 8th Circle mage came here to watch a student's match, it would cause an uproar. The man smiling with great interest was none other than Kim Kang-hyun, the master of the Blue Tower and a powerful 8th Circle mage. Kim Kang-hyun let out a loud laugh. Ha! I know that full well, which is why I'm using the VIP room. Suddenly, another figure appeared behind them. Kim Kang-hyun, with his sharp senses, immediately turned his face. He joyfully spread his arms in welcome. Oh, you're here as well. Down in the arena, as the dust from Seo-hyuk's attack gradually settled, Han simply let out a quiet sigh of relief. Seo-hyuk stood there, biting his nails in a state of chaos, unable to believe his eyes. What is happening? Did he block my 3-circle bombardment magic with just 1-circle water magic? The sight of his fireballs instantly turning into steam and tiny raindrops upon hitting the water shield left Seo-hyuk even more bewildered. Han's abnormally fast casting speed made him feel even more helpless. Han smiled, his voice full of pride. What, curious about my casting speed? Seo-hyuk immediately dismissed it, shutting his mouth, not giving up on his revenge. Seo-hyuk shouted, "Die!" and raised his hand to attack again. As he swung his arm, 3 more powerful waves of fire shot out, creating an even bigger explosion than before. Seo-hyuk breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking he had eliminated his opponent, he sneered. You fool! I knew it from the moment you tried to show off with just 1-circle magic. How pathetic! But when the smoke cleared, Han was still standing in the same spot, completely unscathed, even raising a hand to taunt him. Seo-hyuk nearly went insane, screaming in fury, "You piece of trash! Where do you think you're going?" Instead of answering, Han launched his first attack. An invisible razor-sharp dart shot past Seo-hyuk. He barely managed to dodge it, but still lost his balance. What? Seo-hyuk looked towards Han, frowning suspiciously. Did he just summon a wind spear? Han casually brushed some dust off his shoulder, making Seo-hyuk even more confused. My attacks didn't faze him at all. How is he completely unaffected? Seo-hyuk looked at his own palm, a sense of helplessness welling up inside him. He yelled, "Ha! Really? You think you can beat me with just 1st-circle magic?" Han chuckled, replying confidently, "Yeah, of course." Immediately, Han summoned another mana dart and launched it straight at Seo-hyuk. When the dart slammed into Seo-hyuk's defensive shield, he briefly thought he would collapse. However, the shield held firm. Seo-hyuk quickly regained his composure, growling with resentment. What the hell are you doing? Don't get arrogant just because you can cast magic faster than me. After studying his mind, he cursed inwardly. You piece of trash. But just then, the dart suddenly changed direction, circling around behind him and embedding itself deep into the arena floor. A piece of Seo-hyuk's sleeve was torn off by the dart's sharp aura. Seo-hyuk was terrified, his face pale as he stammered. He wondered in confusion. Since when did he summon a wind spear from behind me? Meanwhile, Han raised his finger again, preparing to summon another dart. Seo-hyuk shouted in desperation, You bastard! What did you just do? This one-sided battle unfolded under the tense watch of Kim Kang-hyun and his female secretary. Both of them were intently watching for the final outcome. Han looked at his opponent's panicked expression and asked with a triumphant smile, What? You still don't get it? Want me to show you again? He smiled confidently and quickly unleashed a new skill from his fingertip, an aura of energy converging to form a small mana bird. The bird flew gracefully and vividly, rocketing towards Seo-hyuk at incredible speed. Seo-hyuk thought in astonishment. What is that really, a wind spear? Wind spears don't have a dual shot attribute, do they? Han laughed and replied, You're right, they shouldn't. Then he continued to summon more wind birds. But I can do it. Take this volley. 4 shots this time. 4 wind birds simultaneously flew towards Seo-hyuk. He hastily activated his defensive shield, bracing himself. The 4 wind birds crashed into the shield and dissipated. Seo-hyuk thought to himself that even if it was just 1st-circle magic, as long as he could block it, he would be fine. But things didn't go as he expected. Another wind bird suddenly attacked from behind. Seo-hyuk painfully realized it was a wind spear flying in a curved trajectory. Han mocked. That's some good thinking. But are you sure you want to just stand there stunned? With that, he quickly summoned more wind birds. The match has only just begun. He controlled them, making them fly around and continue to pressure his opponent. Seo-hyuk was once again in a difficult position, cursing under his breath. Damn it, this bastard! He thought of a way to escape. He just needed to get out of the wind spear's range and create some distance. Both mana and a spell's range have limits, he reasoned. If I'm far enough away, those annoying, unpredictable attacks won't be able to reach me. Han smirked and commented, Well, that's not a bad decision. If that's the case, He quickly clasped his hands together. Instantly, the windbirds were empowered, shooting forward like arrows. Sahyuk had no time to react. What? The lightning-fast windbirds were right in front of him, causing him to let out a blood-curdling scream. In the stands, Kang Hyun watched the match intently, constantly murmuring in amazement. He turned to the person standing next to him, his voice filled with shock. Not only is it instant cast magic, but their trajectories also change and merge in midair. What kind of magic is this? Really? The middle-aged man standing next to Kang Hyun looked familiar. Kang Hyun spoke up. Lord Shin Hyuk! It was none other than Han's father, the head of the Shin family, a powerful 8th circle mage. The secretary standing nearby immediately responded to Kang Hyun. That's right, sir. Young Master Han's magic seems to be transcending all the normal rules of open-source magic. She continued to explain. For example, the reverse attack spell has a maximum range of only 37.44 meters, a top speed of 117 kilometers per hour, and its trajectory can only be adjusted once. If the target is more than 30 meters away, the spell cannot reach it, and once the trajectory has been altered, it cannot be changed again. In other words, open-source magic is only effective within a predetermined range and effect. Therefore, modern magic duels are often like a battle of wits, where each side tries to predict the other's moves based on known spells like straight lines or 30-degree curved trajectories. Flexible responsiveness, much like gaming skills, is the key to victory. But Baeneo-style magic completely shatters the rigid rules of modern open-source magic. Another windbird, created from his aura, dived forcefully toward the ground right near Sahyuk. The impact sent him tumbling, and a large chunk of the arena floor caved in. Sahyuk panted, unable to believe he was actually struggling against first circle magic. Haroon spoke up, his voice calm. You're underestimating first circle magic, he said, leaning forward as a small drop of water gathered on his fingertip. Even if you go all out with third circle magic, remember that sometimes something seemingly simple can end it all. Sahyuk's eyes widened in fear. What? What do you mean? Haroon smiled faintly. This is first circle water magic, he continued. Magic is the same way. You don't necessarily need a grand spell to end a fight. As soon as he finished speaking, the stream of water on Haroon's hand extended, pouring directly into Sahyuk's slightly open mouth. The water quickly formed a ball, blocking his airway, causing Sahyuk to choke, his face turning red as he tried to cough in vain. Haroon calmly explained. The Academy's combat uniform has a built-in safety barrier spell, but it doesn't seem to be doing you any good right now, does it? Haroon's expression turned cold. Sahyuk gasped, trying to breathe, but he seemed completely exhausted. The entire stadium was now dead silent, holding its breath for the match's outcome. Haroon just stood there quietly. He slowly turned his face towards the professor acting as the referee and said, Professor, I think the result is quite clear. Is there any need to continue? Just then, the referee's whistle blew, and the official announcement boomed over the speakers. The match is over. The winner is Shin Haun. Sahyuk, in a semi-conscious state, was immediately taken inside by the medical staff for treatment. Haroon returned to the waiting area, his gaze falling upon his own fist. A long-lost sense of pride suddenly surged within him. This feeling. Haroon smiled triumphantly, realizing clearly that he was still a true mage. Meanwhile, in the hallway of the management area, Kang Hyun was walking with his secretary. As soon as the match ended and Haroon was declared the winner, Kang Hyun remarked, The return of a genius. How interesting. His eyes flashed with intense curiosity. I want to know more about this kid. Kang Hyun narrowed his eyes. Back in the familiar atmosphere of the academy, Sung Chan enthusiastically greeted Haroon. Hey Haroon, you won awesome. Haroon had just managed to call out his friend's name, Sung Chan, when the latter excitedly threw an arm around his shoulder and barraged him with questions. How did you practice that? Your magic was insane. Sung Chan recounted the match with excitement. The wind spear flew in like whoosh, and then the magic merged and split again. Haroon got straight to the point. Do you want to know? Sung Chan happily replied at once. Of course. Haroon gave a mischievous smile. Well, that magic is a secret. He decided to keep the book a secret. Haroon held out his phone and asked Sung Chan, Have you seen this? Sung Chan leaned in curiously to look. Seen what? On the screen was a news report with a video of Haroon's interview right after the match, with the headline, The Return of the Genius. Haroon asked again. That interview right after the match ended. Aren't you curious about my magic? In the interview video, a reporter asked, Mr. Haroon, could you please tell us, what exactly was that instant cast magic you just showed us? Another reporter added. How were you able to cast magic instantly like that? Are you asking about changing and combining the trajectory of the wind spear? Haun in the video could only offer a wry smile when suddenly a familiar voice cut in. I will answer those questions on his behalf. Haun in the video looked surprised. The person was none other than Kang Hyun. He stepped forward and introduced himself. I am Kim Kang Hyun, master of the Blue Tower, the Ice Demon King. Haun, I watched your match and was very impressed. Kang Hyun came to Haroon's side, put an arm around his shoulder, and cheerfully told the reporters, I believe he used fourth circle magic. Engraving magic? Haun in the video looked puzzled. Engraving magic. As he said that, Kang Hyun raised his hand and created a small fireball. This surprised the reporters and everyone present. Kang Hyun explained with his profound knowledge. It is a spell that allows the user to prepare magic formulas in advance and store them to be cast instantly when needed. With engraving magic, instant casting is entirely possible. So why isn't such a useful spell more widely used? He answered his own question. Well, engraving magic also has a fatal flaw. It can only store spells that are at least 3 circles lower than the user's current level. Then, Kang Hyun turned to Haun with a friendly tone. So, Haun, am I correct? Haun in the video smiled and replied, Yes, that's right. At that moment, Haun could only offer a wry smile, thinking to himself that he had no idea how to explain this Baeneo-style magic anyway. He really came to help just when I needed it. Another reporter expressed astonishment. So, does that mean Mr. Haroon's true skill level is already at the 4th magic circle? Kang Hyun answered for Haun with certainty. That's right, I'm sure of it. Hearing this, the reporters immediately raised their cameras and started snapping pictures continuously. They quickly recognized this was a hot scoop. Reaching the 4th circle of magic at such a young age is comparable to the records of the Tower Masters. Since the Blue Tower Master himself confirmed it, there's no room for doubt. Back in the present, Seon-chan looked at Hazen with a curious gaze. Hazun, so you've really become a 4th circle mage. But anyway, let's put that aside. He continued asking questions based on the video they just watched. How do you explain your magic being able to bypass the rules of open source magic? Hazun nodded in confirmation. Yes, that's the issue. He explained to Seon-chan, back then, I took the opportunity to show off. In the video, Hazun said confidently, allow me to explain. Overcoming the limits of open source magic is actually very simple. He continued, I've improved the basic magic formula. This left Kang Hyun in the video utterly astonished. He muttered in disbelief, improving the magic formula impossible, Kang Hyun thought to himself. That's as difficult as adding a flight function to a car. It's no easy feat. He continued to ponder. If this kid wasn't incompatible with mana, I can't imagine how far he would go in the future. In the video, Hazen then summoned a beautiful blue butterfly from his mana, calling it a modified magic skill. Instantly, a swarm of similar butterflies appeared, fluttering around the reporters. Hazen declared, From now on, I will call this type of modified spell Variant Magic. Kang Hyun's eyes widened as he watched the flawless butterflies fly around, his heart swelling with emotion. This is a revolution. From this day forward, the entire magic community will be shaken. As the video flashback ended, Seon-chan frowned, a skeptical look on his face. Variant magic, huh? Sounds pretty hard to believe. Should I even trust this? Hazun replied confidently. Yeah, you can trust it. Seon-chan placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. All right, I'll believe you then. Anyway, congratulations on winning your first match. Well, I'm heading back to the dorm. Hazun was surprised. Already? Yeah. Seon-chan smiled and turned to leave. I need to get my head straight because I'm facing a pretty tough opponent tomorrow. Hazun tilted his head, a little curious. A tough opponent. The next day, at Oberon Stadium. The atmosphere was still tense and bustling. The stands were packed once again. Everyone was eager to watch the match unfold. Down on the field, Seon-chan stood ready, but it was clear he was facing a difficult challenge. His opponent, a girl with brilliant golden hair, stood firm and confident. She was Adela Star, the prodigy of 2 prestigious families, the Star family from France and the mystic clan of Korea. Hazun, sitting in the stands, watched intently and thought to himself. So she's the tough opponent Seon-chan was talking about. Adela didn't hesitate. She raised her hand and cast the spell Moonlight Calamity. Her magic combined light and shadow, creating a brilliant stream of energy that shot straight at Seon-chan. He quickly put up a defensive shield, but Adela's power was too great. His defense was quickly shattered, and the final blow knocked him to the ground. The referee blew the whistle, ending the match. and the announcement rang out. The winner is Adela Starr. Adela slowly untied her hair, her gaze sweeping across the stands before stopping on Hazoon. He was slightly flustered. Is she looking at me? Hazoon began to analyze Adela's skills. Her magic was truly special, combining light and shadow to create an energy that could illuminate the darkest night. This must be the signature secret art of the Mystic Clan. This type of magic isn't registered within the scope of open-source magic, in terms of range, power, or properties, he told himself. Facing her will definitely be tough. After the match, Xian Chan couldn't stop complaining about his loss. Damn it. Hazan walked over, handed him a bottle of water, and patted his shoulder encouragingly. You did great. Here, have some water. But Xian Chan continued to lament. Running into Adela was just bad luck. Just then, a woman appeared behind them. Xian Chan turned and whispered to Hazoon. Did you win your second match? Hazan smiled and replied, Of course. Xian Chan was about to say, Then your next opponent is... but was suddenly cut off by Adela. That was a great match. An excellent fight. It turned out she had been standing behind them the whole time. Hearing the compliment, Xian Chan's attitude immediately changed as he replied cheerfully, Oh, thank you. I learned a lot from you. Meanwhile, Adela kept her eyes fixed on Hazoon, which he found confusing. She asked him directly, Hazoon, are you back to being a mage again? Then she looked him straight in the eye and stated her purpose. My reason for joining this academy? I hope you'll remind me of it. Hazoon thought about the relationship between the Sin family and Adela. Her Mystic Clan and his Sin family had known each other since before they both enrolled at Oberon Academy. The two families had a good relationship, so Adela and he had met at various events. If one had to use a single word to describe their relationship, it would be rivals. Adela had even given up her studies in France to enroll at Oberon, with the sole goal of surpassing him, but ever since the day he was deemed incompatible with Mana, they hadn't spoken to each other. Being labeled as incompatible was a major turning point in his life. And it was also a shock to Adela. She had lost the rival who pushed her to strive for greatness. Hazoon smiled and said to Adela, Adela, I'm not worthy of being your goal. She replied decisively, We'll see about that when we face each other in the arena. Standing beside them, Xian Chan asked worriedly, Hey Hazoon, are you sure you're ready? Hazoon was surprised. Huh, ready for what? Xian Chan's face paled. You really don't know your next opponent is Adela Starr. This information left Hazoon stunned. What? Throughout that night, Hazoon spent a lot of time thinking. The next day, at the Oberon arena, Adela stood ready in a fighting stance, but her opponent, Hazoon, hadn't shown up. The audience in the stands immediately started buzzing. Where's Hazoon? Did he get scared and run away? Haha. It was all just fake stats. In the interview, he bragged about his transformed magic, but in the end, it was all just talk. Right. He probably realized he couldn't beat Adela and withdrew beforehand. The referee standing in the middle of the arena gulped. Then he slowly announced, Time's up. According to the rules, Adela Starr is the winner by default. Suddenly, from the waiting hall, Hazan rushed out, shouting, Wait a minute. He gave a strained smile, apologizing for being late. The referee looked angry. Hazan, why are you only just arriving? He pointed to the man's position on the field. No, I'll hear your explanation later. I won't give you time to recover. Consider it a penalty for being late. Get to your position now. Hazoon walked to face Adela, lightly rubbing his hands together. Adela formed a triangle symbol with her hands in front of her chest, asking curiously, May I ask why you were late? Hazan smiled lightly. It's nothing important, just a little preparation. After speaking, he immediately summoned a magic circle under his feet. Adela murmured, Preparation. He continued, You're pretty strong too, Adela, so I had to prepare thoroughly to defeat you. This will be an interesting match. Adela was skeptical. You prepared in just one day. She gradually noticed the difference in the power emanating from him. She thought to herself, I can feel that the Hazan before me is completely different from yesterday. Will I get to see his true power? Hazan confidently advised. Let me tell you beforehand, you'll have to use your full strength from the very beginning to fight me. The referee wasted no time, shouting, Let the match begin. As soon as the shout ended, Adela didn't hesitate. Raising her hand and immediately casting a fireball, she shaped her hand like a gun barrel, aimed straight at Hazoon, and chanted the skill's name. 6-barrel fire cannon. In a flash, intense streams of fire energy shot out from her fingertips, launching 3 consecutive fireballs toward her opponent. Unfazed, Hazen raised his hand and called out a counterspell. Gale, powerful winds were instantly summoned, bending around and easily shattering the incoming fireballs. Seeing her attack neutralized, Adela clenched her palm. A light flashed from her hand, and she drew out a long, sharp spike. Earth Sunder. As soon as the command was given, the ground beneath Hazun's feet began to crack. From deep below, razor-sharp spikes formed from aura stabbed upwards, splitting the arena floor and rushing towards him, exploding violently. Hazun quickly leaped out of the impact zone, performing a skillful and beautiful backflip. Seeing him in midair, Adela said softly, "In the air. You won't be able to dodge this next one." But her sharp eyes quickly noticed that Hazun seemed to have something planned. Without hesitating, she drew a seal, preparing to use an aerial assault skill. Seeing Adela's actions, Hazun pondered. A skill aimed at the defenseless state while in the air. Even if you see the attack coming, it's very difficult to dodge. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly. Most people would think so. But Hazun narrowed his eyes, summoning a defensive shield in midair, forming a solid foothold right under his feet. "In the stands," people exclaimed in astonishment. Creating a defensive magic shield in the air impossible. Even Adela hadn't expected it, her eyes widening in surprise. What is that?" Hazun smirked victoriously from his shield. He turned the shield sideways and used it as a platform to stand on. This made Adela feel challenged. A desire to overwhelm her opponent surged within her. She thought to herself, "It's still that unique way Hazun uses magic. The Mystic Master Clan's secret moon system magic. To counter it, I have to use everything I've got. And to do that, I'll need to bring the sun itself into this match." A dazzling light, like the sun, suddenly poured down onto the arena, shining directly on Adela, forcing her to quickly raise a hand to shield her eyes. She was slightly bewildered, stammering, The sun's light. An attack is coming. I have to defend." With that thought, she immediately focused her mind, summoning an incredibly sturdy shield in front of her. "Great shield!" As he landed, Hazun shouted, "No!" Instantly, a wind sword formed in his hand. Without hesitation, Hazun swung the sword, slashing directly at Adela's great shield. Adela thought to herself, "Using a first-tier magic to attack my third-tier defense. He must be probing and being very cautious." Just as she predicted, Hazun's attack was repelled by the shield. He quickly placed a hand on the ground, sliding across the floor to absorb the force. Seeing this, Adela raised her hand to prepare a counterattack. She thought, "My turn." But suddenly her leg was bound by a mana thread she hadn't noticed. Adela broke into a cold sweat, wondering in confusion, "When did he bind my leg? Did he cast the spell the moment he touched the ground?" His speed was so fast my eyes could barely keep up. At that moment, Hazun moved again. He cast another spell, shouting, "Water arrow!" A swirling current of water appeared in his hand. Seizing the opportunity, Adela used her fire to burn away the thread binding her leg. Hazun pointed to the sky, creating huge spheres of water. When he pointed at Adela, the water spheres transformed into dolphins and charged at her. Adela quickly summoned a shield to block the barrage of attacks. She breathed a sigh of relief. It seems he's not too difficult to deal with after all. She recalled the previous interview when Kang Hyun said, "In my opinion, Hazun used 4th-tier inscription magic." Adela confidently analyzed that inscriptions could only activate 3rd-tier magic or lower. As a 4th-tier mage, Han could in fact only use 1st-tier magic through engravings. She smiled confidently, thinking 1st-tier magic could not defeat her. But suddenly, a windbird dove down from the sky, crashing violently into the ground. Luckily, Adela managed to dodge, and she wondered in astonishment, when did he attack? Could he have hidden a wind spear magic variant in the blinding sunlight? She realized she had been stunned and disoriented by his technique. Han stood still, calmly watching Adela stagger and fall. He asked coldly, "Have you forgotten who you're facing?" "Adela Star." Adela looked up, her eyes filled with defiance. In the stands, Kang Hyun's secretary quickly grasped the situation. She remarked, "His combat intuition is far beyond what we imagined." Kang Hyun began his analysis. From the moment he dodged the first attack, Han had already planned everything carefully. By launching himself into the air, he baited Adela into unleashing other attacks, then used a magic shield as a foothold. He continued to climb even higher. Kang Hyun explained that he hid himself in the sunlight, restricting Adela's vision, and then from a pre-prepared inscription, he set up multiple layers of consecutive wind spears. Kang Hyun continued. While falling, he deliberately used earth-type spells like Earth Spike to draw her attention to the ground. This made Adela mistakenly believe it was just a standard ground battle. And when he was perfectly aligned with the sun, He launched the fatal wind spear that he had already prepared. Kang Hyun smiled, turning to look at Shin and Hyu. He remarked, "The first-tier archmage. Now I understand why he was once given that title." But Shin and Hyu still was not completely convinced. He said, "But in the end, it's still just first-tier magic." Shin and Hyu pointed down to the arena. "Look." Down below, both contestants had returned to their positions, facing each other to prepare for the next round of attacks. Adela's hair was now a bit of a mess, with a small bleeding cut on her cheek, while Han, in contrast, remained composed, without a single scratch on him, Shin and Hyu observed. Even though he was in an extremely advantageous position, he still couldn't deliver the finishing blow. He frowned. He can't do it. Han stood there silently, not saying a word. Shin and Hyu added, "And Adela still hasn't used that magic of hers yet." But upon hearing the comment, Adela immediately placed a hand on her chest and said sincerely, "Honestly, you're truly impressive. You remind me of that moment." Her eyes suddenly blazed with light. "I will use my full power as well." Han quickly got into a defensive stance, thinking to himself that it was finally happening. Suddenly, Adela's entire body began to emit a wondrous and powerful white light. Han could not help but break out in a sweat, his whole body tense as he nervously prepared to counterattack at any moment. Adela raised her hand high, summoning a giant orb of light above her. She shouted the name of her clan's ultimate secret art. "Supreme Lunar System, the secret art of the Moonlight Mage clan." Adela summoned a massive magic circle, her power so immense that the entire arena floor began to crack. Han was affected by the tremors, constantly shielding his eyes. That circle shot an extremely bright beam down below, blotting out the entire sky. Seeing this, Shin and Hyu seemed to lose all hope. He turned to leave, prompting Kang Hyun to ask, "Are you leaving?" The man declared, "The match is over. There's no need to watch any further." A sudden loud noise echoed, making him stop in his tracks. Kang Hyun also whipped his head around in surprise, and even his secretary exclaimed, "Impossible," Kang Hyun stammered. "That's..." Song Chan, who was watching the match, also jumped to his feet. Adela was frozen in place. "This is impossible." Han had summoned a colossal magic circle, even larger than hers, with extreme firepower. He extended his hand towards her and shouted, "Volcano!" Adela looked at him in astonishment. "Second-tier magic," he smiled and said. "I told you, I was taking my time because I had to prepare to defeat you," Adela asked skeptically. "The limit of an inscription is only first-tier magic. Have you already achieved the 5th magic circle?" Han smiled confidently. The previous night, in his dorm at Oberon Academy, Han sat on his bed, silently staring at the Book of Idris. He thought to himself, Adela was not someone he could defeat with just first-tier magic. He picked up the book, thinking his fighting style was incompatible with her lunar system's secret art. Han flipped a page, thinking, "At first, I thought I'd wait until I completely mastered it before I overpowered her." On the newest page of the book, it said, "If you can truly control the nether, channel your energy into the magic circle on the next page. This magic circle will take you to a new height." He was surprised after reading, "Is it some kind of mechanism?" Han quickly held out his hand. "I'll give it a try. No need to hesitate." He pressed his hand onto the book, and a stream of light erupted from his aura. The symbolic circle in the book began to glow. He could not help but exclaim, "Whoa!" But the book just kept glowing brighter. Han shielded his eyes. "Damn it, it's glowing even more. Ah!" Then, the light enveloped his body, so blinding that Han could not stop shielding his face and screaming as he slowly vanished from the room. After a moment, when only a few stray sparks of light were left on the book, he had been completely pulled inside. He slowly opened his eyes to a golden light. Oh, before him was another world, a space the size of a library, yet strangely ethereal. Han looked up toward the source of the light, wondering where he was. A girl's voice rang out, welcoming him to the first trial page. She had dazzling golden eyes and a magnificent gown. She introduced herself. "I am Alpha, the guide for the first trial page." He turned in surprise. Han was astonished. "The first trial page," Alpha replied. "That's right. This is the first trial page inside the Book of Idris." He couldn't help but be stunned. Inside the book, not teleported to some distant place, but actually inside the book, Han broke out in a cold sweat, finding it hard to believe. Alpha continued, "In this trial, I will test whether your mind's eye is truly complete. The trial instructions will be given at the start. If you pass, pages 18 to 31 will be updated with information on second circle magic." He hesitated for a moment, thinking, So I have to pass this trial to get information on the next magic circle? Alpha asked. Now that the explanation is over, shall we begin the trial? He immediately replied. Of course. Let's start right away. After receiving the contestant's consent, she bowed and then vanished. Understood. Alpha suddenly flew into the air and announced, Then, let the first trial begin. Han looked at her with a sense of unfamiliarity. Alpha slowly faded away, dissolving into shimmering golden fragments. Han stood frozen, watching her disappear. He thought to himself, I didn't think she was human, but I never expected her to be a magical entity. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. I will now explain the trial. Han immediately recognized it as the professor's voice. Between his hands, a sparkling crystal hovered in the air, radiating a wondrous, colorful aura. Baeneo explained. The name of this crystal is the prismatic mana crystal. It's an incomplete crystal with 4 unevenly mixed attributes. Your task is to completely purify this crystal. Han's eyes widened in surprise. Completely purify this crystal. The prismatic mana crystal was an extremely fragile gem, requiring incredibly delicate mana control. Inside this crystal, 4 types of mana existed in a chaotic state, and now he had to purify it. It was like being asked to separate sand, salt, sugar, and pepper from a fine mixture. This was no simple task. Usually, only those who had mastered the mind's eye could accomplish it, but this would certainly be interesting. Han took a deep breath, his fighting spirit ablaze. His pupils took on this blue hue of the mind's eye, and immediately, tiny specks of color appeared, intermingling with the graceful flow of mana. He focused on casting his spell on the sturdy crystal. Han's eyes were shut tight. The mana slowly expanded, but ultimately, the stone repelled the force, throwing him back violently and causing him to slam his back against a bookshelf. He slowly slid to the floor as a book fell on his head. Han thought in frustration. Even the slightest fluctuation in mana creates a shockwave. It's like it's sending a warning signal. He removed the book from his head and stared at the still glowing stone, deep in thought. Despite his attempts to separate the mana, it was so thoroughly blended that it was nearly impossible to pull apart. But he had an idea, and he would keep trying no matter how long it took. An unknown amount of time passed. Han would just smile and get back up, but the result never changed. He was thrown back by the crystal's mana time and time again. Even the smallest mistake forced him to start all over. And then, Han finally let out a sigh of relief, his face drenched in sweat. He had finally succeeded. He watched as the stone gradually crystallized and said, Prismatic mana crystal. Suddenly, Baeneo's voice echoed. Congratulations on passing the trial. The successor, Han, curled his lips into a smirk as he looked down at his own hand. Baeneo continued. You have mastered the mind's eye. I will now update the book with the second circle, the technique to create a resonance circle. After passing the test, Han immediately woke up in his bed. It was the next morning. He was still a bit dazed. I'm back. As Han opened the book, lines of text began to inscribe themselves on the pages. He smiled and said, All right. I've finally learned the method for second circle magic. Before his next match began, Han thought, I absolutely must master second circle magic. Back in the academy arena, Adela summoned a massive magic circle and shouted. Moonlight Han immediately shielded himself with his bare arm, as the ground beneath his feet buckled from the pressure of the powerful aura descending from above. Adela pointed her hand toward him, and the magic circle immediately shot down a powerful beam of light, striking right where Han stood. Song Chan, who was watching the match, grimaced with worry. Damn it, Han's going to be toast. Adela confidently turned and flipped her hair. The match is over. She glanced back at Han's position amidst the fading light. I can't believe he got so much stronger in such a short time. Han, who in the world are you? But it's over! The genius I once admired is no more! Suddenly, a loud noise from behind startled Adela. She quickly spun around. Huh, what was that noise? Just then, Han's eyes snapped open, revealing bright red pupils as he roared. Second circle! Activate resonance! He continued to chant the spell's name. Veil of Shadows. Instantly, a massive circle of fire appeared behind him. 2 magical flames appeared in Han's hands. He glanced at the purple flame. Combining 2 infinite magic circles, with unwavering determination, Han merged the 2 flames and slowly spread his hands apart. His hands faced each other as if stretching something, his eyes never losing their intense focus. Become my limbs. This display left In Hyo and Kang Hyun utterly astonished. Even the students watching the match were slack-jawed in awe. Adela was frozen in place, muttering, What? What is happening? A massive hand from a manifested deity parted the beam of light from Adela's magic circle, shielding Haun. He pointed a finger at her and shouted one word, Volcano! Unprepared! Adela instinctively fell back and cast a first resonance defensive spell. Haun then proceeded to summon a large, six-barreled gun brimming with firepower. Adela's eyes widened in shock as the first bullets flew. She realized she couldn't block them. In her heart, she screamed, No, I can't block it! I can't! Finally, Adela raised her hands high to summon her magic. She looked at Haun with a moved expression. You're back. Once again the target I'm aiming for. The bullets from the gun rained down on Adela relentlessly, to the point where even the referee held his breath. After the intense barrage of fire, Adela was still standing. In Haiwook and Kang Hyun watched the outcome intently. Finally, she collapsed from exhaustion. Adela lay on the ground, surrounded by a mess of bullet holes. Ha-eun also squatted down, panting from exhaustion. The referee quickly announced, The match is over. The winner is Shin Haun. The entire stadium erupted in cheers. In Haiwook quietly left. Kang Hyun asked, Are you leaving, sir? He replied, I have another meeting. But he was still smiling. Kang Hyun nodded, understanding. He looked back at the arena, thinking to himself, You're really not good at lying, are you? At that moment, he saw Ha-eun celebrating his victory. Ha-eun entered the waiting room, taking off his jacket with his body drenched in sweat. He sighed. I'm so tired. The second infinite magic circle resonates and synchronizes with the mind circle to amplify magic. Lunar magic is a hybrid type that combines the range of light magic with the potential of dark magic. By adjusting the intensity of the dark element, I can narrow the attack range. I dealt with moonlight using advanced dark magic. In any case, lunar magic is a unique secret art of the Black Mage clan. Not just anyone can use it, but through observation and by summarizing the magic's structure, I succeeded in controlling pure mana. The resonance circle allows me to analyze magic with a more unique perspective, discovering the structure of lunar magic. The process of purifying light system mana also trained my mana control. If it weren't for these factors, defeating Adela would have been nearly impossible. He looked towards a group of students who were chatting excitedly. A young man with white hair and distinctive glasses, wearing elegant leather shoes, entered the waiting room. He called out cheerfully, Hey, Ha-eun! This made Ha-eun turn around in surprise, only managing to unconsciously utter, Oh! Ha-eun stood up and said with a look of astonishment, The master of the magic tower. Kang Hyun smirked. I came to have a chat with you. Ha-eun was invited into Kang Hyun's office. Kang Hyun began. Sorry to bother you when you need to rest. I watched your match. It was truly impressive. Ha-eun replied politely. Thank you. Kang Hyun continued. I'll be direct. Ha-eun, have you reached the fifth circle of magic? Ha-eun remained silent, a hint of anxiety in his heart. Thinking back, I only used second circle magic in the match. The master of the Green Tower must have thought I used inscription. If I use second circle magic, of course, a third circle mage or higher would mistake me for having reached the fifth circle. Ha-eun gave a wry smile. It's not that I haven't reached the fifth circle. Kang Hyun nodded, his eyes gleaming. I see. So how did you use second circle magic? Ha-eun. The difficult question, coupled with high expectations, made Ha-eun even more flustered. If I said it was ocular magic, you probably wouldn't believe me, would you? Kang Hyun asked back. If it's ocular magic, is that the transformation magic you mentioned in the previous interview? Ha-eun confirmed. Yes, it's transformation magic. In his mind, he calculated. Let's stick with this. Reaching the fifth circle at 18 is unbelievable. This would cause a worldwide stir. Later, when I use third circle magic, it will definitely cause trouble. I have to hide this for now. Kang Hyun asked again. Ocular magic is wonderful, but what about the second circle magic? His gaze was serious. Ha-eun clutched his chest and replied, I improved the inscription spell. This surprised Kang Hyun. Improve the inscription spell. Suddenly, Kang Hyun shot up from his seat and approached Ha-eun. Ha-ha! This must be the only way. He patted Ha-eun's shoulder, praising him. Truly amazing. I can't believe you even improved the weakness of inscription. Ha-eun awkwardly replied. Thank you. Ha-eun looked more closely and realized. Red eyes. Kang Hyun's eyes were glowing a mysterious red, carrying a dangerous and controlling aura that made Ha-eun break out in a cold sweat. The atmosphere in the room grew even more tense with just the two of them facing each other. Kang Hyun slowly curled his lips, repeating, Red eyes. For sure. Then he removed his hand from Ha-eun's shoulder, smiling lightly. There's no trace of a fifth circle mage's mana. Now I'm certain. Just as you said. Ha-eun, you still haven't reached the fifth circle. He narrowed his eyes and continued. Now, if you'll excuse me, I will explain everything to the press. Ruby Mystic Eye. Ha-eun quickly stood up, confirming it had been verified. As Kang Hyun left, he bowed respectfully to say goodbye. Ha-eun let out a sigh of relief, running a hand through his hair and whispering, Ah, thank you. Get home safe. Thinking back, I can't believe the Tower Master used the Ruby Mystic Eye to verify it. Kim Kang Hyun's Ruby Mystic Eye, the master of the Green Tower, can see through the essence of mana and is considered the world's strongest clairvoyant mystic eye. The more he thought about it, the more he sweated. I got away with it because the Tower Master didn't detect it. My Baeneo-style magic is my biggest secret. I can't risk revealing it. The next day, the echoes from the arena resounded. The match is over. The winner, Shin Haun. He had defeated his next opponent. Ha-eun glanced down at his opponent's name one last time before entering the waiting room. Inside the hall, a girl hurriedly called out to him, Wait! Ha-eun turned around, slightly surprised. It was Adela. She was bandaged but able to walk. Ha-eun asked, I thought you'd be out for about 4 hours, but you're back already, Adela replied curtly. Yeah, I'm fine now. Ha-eun was curious. So, what's up? Adela quickly expressed. It's nothing major. I want you to give me your feedback on our match. She stammered. Anyway, the finals are still coming up, so if you're tired, we can talk later. Han smiled, gesturing inside. No need. Let's talk now. Your feedback is helpful for me too, so follow me to the waiting room. His words warmed Adela's heart. She thought to herself that, just like the previous match, there wasn't much to learn from his tactics or spellcasting. One day, I too, she thought shyly as she followed him. One day, I want to be like that too. Meanwhile, Han walked on, smiling to himself. Heh, I can feel some seriously intense heat coming from behind me. In a magnificent skyscraper gleaming in the daylight at the headquarters of the Shin Corporation, identified by its dragon symbol, a mysterious woman stood before a large screen displaying an image of Han. With a contemptuous gaze, she muttered, Shin Haun, I thought this was all over. The vast room was luxuriously furnished, and a man stood silently behind her. The woman, named Zia, the eldest daughter of the Shin family, turned to the man with an annoyed expression. Brother, are you just going to let Han be the man? Shin Ji-han replied nonchalantly. What else is there to do? Zia couldn't hide her anxiety. What if they bring Han back home? Do you remember what happened 1 year ago? You know better than anyone. Are we going to have to endure that again? Ji-han replied calmly. Don't worry, Zia. 1 year ago, that kid might have been a genius, but now he's just trash, only capable of using second circle magic in a real fight. He chuckled and asked, You watched his match too, didn't you? Zia was still fuming. But brother, everyone is going crazy over how amazing he is. Ji-han pulled her by the shoulder, his voice calm. Listen closely, Zia. All of his recent opponents were just third circle students. Against a fourth circle mage, he'd be easily defeated. Han has a fatal weakness, an incompatibility with A2 magic. He's just using tricks and low-level spells to compensate. Ultimately, Han is still far inferior to a normal fourth circle mage. His skills are too low, Zia stammered. Is that really true? I thought so too. No matter how hard he tries, he'll always be stuck at the bottom. Incompatible will always be incompatible. She bit her nails nervously. But what if he somehow threatens your position as the next family head? Ji-han looked at her, a cold aura enveloping him. He shattered a cup with his aura. Drops of coffee trickled onto the floor. We can deal with it later. It won't be too late, he said decisively, back at the arena on a cool afternoon. Shin Haun had proven his outstanding talent. The arena floor beneath him was covered in cracks and craters from the powerful impacts. His opponent had collapsed to the ground, and the referee's whistle blew, declaring the match over. The champion of the second-year midterm exam was Shin Haun. He stood tall under the admiring gazes of the audience as the students in the stands rose to their feet and roared. The genius has returned. That was amazing. As expected of the Shin family, praises from the fans echoed continuously. Incredible, Han smiled, waving to the crowd. The universal recognition further highlighted his talent. Han's taboo magic even surpasses A2 magic. What a genius. From afar, Zhongchan yelled. Han, you were so cool. He ran up, grabbed Han's shoulders, and shook him vigorously. You did it. Everyone recognizes your skills now. Congratulations. Han just chuckled. Zhang-chan, calm down. However, behind him were the jealous stares of other contestants. What's so special about that guy without his taboo magic? He'd be nothing. Instructor Zhang Shu approached, his face beaming. Congratulations, Shin Haun. As your homeroom teacher, I'm very proud of you. Zhang Chan quickly chimed in. Sir, are you going to treat us to celebrate Han's victory? Han sighed. Zhang Chan, please. Zhang Shu laughed. I was already planning on treating all of you. You didn't have to ask. Zhang Chan yelled. Awesome, let's go. You're coming with us. Han was dragged along, stammering. Wait, he whispered to Zhang Chan. I'm sorry. I really want to go, but I have an important meeting. He then abruptly pulled away from Zhang Chan's grip, startling him. Oh, man. What's a party without the guest of honor? Han winked and waved goodbye. Sorry, it's really important. My apologies. Zhang Chan. His friend stood there with a dazed expression as instructor Zhang Shu placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Han quickly left the arena, reminding himself, I have an important promise to keep. Suddenly, he stopped. A luxurious black car was parked in front of him, with a butler waiting. We have been waiting for you, young master. His expression turned serious. The butler bowed his head. The family head is waiting for you. I will escort you to the main residence. That evening, the car took Han back to the Shin family estate. He stood before the large doors, lost in thought. It's been 1 year since I was deemed incompatible with A2 magic. After defying my cold-hearted father and moving into the academy's dorms, I was never allowed to return home. He opened the door and stepped inside. Everything was just as it had been. He thought to himself, nothing has changed. It's all just as I remember. Han walked down the hallway until a large door appeared before him. He thought to himself, Father's study. I'm finally back here. He approached and knocked several times. From inside, a stern-faced In Hayek was waiting. Come in. Han entered, standing before the room of the Shin family's head. He thought, so I had to come here again. In Hayek sat at his desk, placing a book down. Come in. Han bowed respectfully. It has been a while. He looked up at his father. In Hayek, holding the book, sat with a cold expression. The two of them sat facing each other. In Hayek began, I once thought you were useless. He walked around to where Han was sitting, with a casting speed 20 times slower than average, where even the slightest mistake meant failure. You couldn't even perform basic magic. Back then, you were the very definition of incompetent. He stopped behind Han, his hands clasped behind his back. But everyone thought you might have a special talent, so I told you to switch to AI magic to unlock your potential. Of course, I didn't expect much. I just saw it as a desperate person's last resort. Han replied respectfully. I understand, Father. On online news sites, articles about Shin Haun were constantly being published with illustrations. Has he made a comeback Shin, the one once called a genius? However, due to his incompatibility with AI magic, many were skeptical about his return. But with his recent performance on the midterm exam at Oberon Academy, it seems he's on the verge of a revival. The whole country began to notice him as the youngest son of the prestigious Shin family. Ineas continued. Furthermore, I read the article on Pixra. I saw it as a good opportunity for you to regain your honor after your past failures. But you surpassed all my expectations, overcoming that incompatibility and creating transformation magic, he said with a laugh. This time, you've won. Hazan, you deserve to be called a true mage now. Han's eyes immediately lit up as he said, Thank you. Thank you, Father, Ineas continued. From now on, the family will pour all its resources into nurturing you. Just tell me whatever you need. And I will also approve your return to the Shin family as the legitimate heir. Bring honor to our family. Hearing those powerful words from his father, Han beamed. Ineas added a warning. And I want to remind you of one thing. If I find you slacking off or delaying your training, I will destroy your magic circle. He immediately placed a hand on his forehead. Han clenched his fists, thinking. So this is the overwhelming presence of an 8-circle mage. It's terrifying. But this is my last chance, he replied. Yes, Father. The man sat back in his chair and asked, So, what is your goal? Han was surprised. You're asking about my goal? Ineas nodded. Yes. You once wanted to become the head of the Shin family, didn't you, John? See, Inhi, Minji? Right now, you are the weakest among your siblings. Han immediately replied. I've told you before, Father. My only goal is to become the head of the family. That's it. First, I will make everyone remember my name, Ineas asked seriously. And how will you do that? Han placed his hand on the table and said, by participating in the World Academy Olympics that will be held in 2 months. Contestants from all over the world will be there, and I will bring home the gold medal. The Mage Olympics is held annually for mages under the age of 20, also known as the Magic Olympics, and it attracts worldwide attention on par with professional tournaments. Ineas finally said, but our country's best performer, the master of the Blue Magic Tower, only won a silver medal. You want to win gold? That sounds completely unrealistic. You see that too, don't you? Han replied confidently. Yes, which is why I have one condition. Ineas was surprised. A condition, Han said. Yes, for the next 2 months. Please stop my siblings. Don't let them interfere with me, Ineas thought to himself. Bold, using a nearly impossible goal to buy himself temporary protection. Normally, I would refuse such an absurd request. Thinking this, he chuckled with amusement. But this time is different. The next morning, in Han's apartment, a chaotic scene unfolded. Books were piled messily on the floor as Han slowly opened his eyes, waking up. Did I fall asleep again? After coming back from my father's house, I started looking into the criteria for the second test, even though I passed the first one. To advance to the 3rd magic circle, I have to pass the second test. Right now, I have no idea where to start. The only thing I know for sure is that resonance is the key. I need to increase my compatibility with magic. This is the most difficult stage of the second circle. Han flipped to another page, telling himself, to pass the test, I have to touch this and control my mana according to the principle of resonance. A little trick I know is that I need to use the Ring of Judgment and the Ring of Resonance. He couldn't help but exclaim, this handwriting is terrible, before quickly returning to the main topic. So, to connect most effectively, should I do it like this? Han began to control 2 mana circuits with his mana. They looked like 2 intersecting threads, forming a 4-leaf clover shape before slowly pressing onto the page of the book. Finally, he sighed. All right, I'll go for a walk to clear my head. Outside in the modern city, Han walked in silence, his mind at ease. He thought to himself, that's right, taking a walk once in a while really helps you relax. Taking a deep breath, he felt the fresh air. After breakfast and this walk, I feel like I have a better understanding of resonance, he told himself. Suddenly, a shout rang out. Hey, watch out! Startling him. When he turned around, a strange object flew straight at his face. A plastic bag hit him hard, causing Han pain. He clutched his face and sat down on the ground, crying out, ah, that hurts! A girl rushed over from a distance, asking worriedly, are you okay? Han looked up and was surprised to realize, hey, are you Adela? In front of him was none other than the young lady of the Star family. The two continued walking together, Han asked curiously. But why did that plastic bag fly at me? Adela stammered. Well, and began to explain. I was happily swinging it around because I was about to drink my banana milk, and then it just flew off. Adela looked apologetic. She had accidentally flung the bag right at him. Han said awkwardly. Ah, I see. Adela continued to apologize. I'm sorry. He smiled reassuringly. It's okay. Thanks to you. I got to drink some banana milk too. But is this still all you drink? Adela opened her grocery bag, which was filled with cartons of banana milk. She said of course it is. It's the best drink humanity has ever created. Han looked at the pile of banana milk and exclaimed, that's so much, way too much. After a moment, Adela asked, I heard you went home. Han nodded and replied, that's right. I returned to the Magic Tower yesterday. Adela immediately asked, that's great. Do you still want to become the Tower Master? He was surprised. Did I say that? Adela recalled their childhood and just chuckled. Yeah, we talked about it before. Han thought for a moment, then said, no, I don't have that dream anymore. This took her by surprise. What have you accepted reality? She thought about how the Tower Master has many outstanding siblings, and becoming the head of the family wouldn't be easy. He asked doubtfully. Huh, what are you talking about? Then he continued. My dream is to become a master magician, to stand at the pinnacle of the entire wizarding world, not just of the Magic Tower. His eyes sparkled with determination. That is my goal. Adela froze, quickly turning away, unable to believe her ears. Wizarding world, What a terrifying goal, beyond imagination. Finally, she gave a small smile, as someone who followed him. The feeling was intense. The main house of the Magic Tower. That night at the Shin family's Magic Tower, Zaya was so anxious she kept biting her nails. She slammed her hand on the table and called out to Jihan. "Brother, aren't you worried at all?" Jihan replied nonchalantly. "Father must have his reasons." Then he frowned, thinking to himself, he couldn't believe their father would set such conditions. Recalling that moment, both Jihan and Zaya had been summoned to Inhook's office. Jihan had asked, "Father, is there a reason you called for us?" The man thought for a moment before saying, "I know your personalities well, so I'm ordering you not to touch Han for the next 2 months." Both of them were immediately startled. Zia turned pale and protested. "Father, but why?" Jihan quickly raised a hand to stop her and calmly asked, "Father, can you explain the reason to us?" The man replied slowly. "You both know that Han officially returned to the Magic Tower yesterday. He is still a minor and has been away from the family for 1 year. So I think giving him 2 months to adapt to the family is necessary. I will be observing him closely, especially how you two compete for the position of family head." Jihan was silent for a moment, then forced a smile and replied, "Yes, I understand. Father, is there anything else?" The man stood up, looked out the window, and said, "That's all. You two must be tired. Go get some rest." Back in the present, Zia couldn't hide her anxiety and continued to ask, "Brother, why did you leave without saying anything?" She suddenly stopped and muttered, Jihan's face at that moment was contorted to an extreme degree, as if he was about to go insane. He muttered in anger, "Damn it! This is unacceptable. Inhook and Minji aren't interested in competing for the family head position, so I understand why they weren't invited to the meeting. But to leave Han alone just because he was away for a year? If it were the father of the past, he would have surely made us endure it, saying that being behind by 1 year makes one unqualified to be the heir. Furthermore, the protection for minors only applies until the age of 16, before the AI imprinting process takes place. That means 17 is already past that limit," he said aloud in resentment. "So why would he say that Zia kept biting her nails, thinking, could it be because of father?" Jihan repeatedly denied it. "No, that's not it. Han hasn't proven enough to father yet." Zia asked again. "Then why?" Thinking back on the times he showed his skills, perhaps their father saw some potential in him. Or maybe father is interested in the mysterious magic system Han commands. Or perhaps father and Han have made some kind of deal. Hearing these theories, she immediately panicked. A deal? What kind of deal could it be? Zia clutched her head and screamed, "That's right. Father wouldn't make a decision like this. It's too troublesome. Brother Jihan, should we recall everyone we sent to watch him?" Jihan simply replied, "Perhaps, unless they're confident they won't be detected by the Shadow Guards." The Shadow Guards, an intelligence unit directly under Father, operate as the secret force of the Magic Tower, an elite team specializing in infiltration, information gathering, and escort missions. There's nothing they can't do," Jihan added. "To be clear, I've already withdrawn all surveillance on Han." Ixia broke into a sweat, asking worriedly, "Brother, what are you planning to do?" He looked back at her and said curtly, "I'm heading out first." Even though he had agreed to their father's terms, sitting still for 2 months wasn't his style. If Han really has some kind of deal with father, it's too risky. He smirked cunningly as he left the room, thinking he would join the Black Tower at Oberon Academy. Teacher Trangshu cheerfully announced, "The midterm exams are over, and you all did very well. Our class is especially honored to have the top student, so please give a round of applause for Shin Haun." As Han stood up, the entire class immediately applauded enthusiastically. He walked up to the podium, accepting the certificate with both hands. Teacher Trangshu praised him. "You ranked first in the entire nation. Congratulations." Han replied humbly, "Thank you, sir." The teacher smiled and added, "Since you've achieved first place, you'll have to maintain this position for the next 2 months and participate in the Academy's Olympics." Han smiled and replied, "Yes, I was planning on it." As Han returned to his seat, many in the class began to whisper, "Winning with illusion magic and acting so arrogant. How ridiculous." Some even made malicious comments. "First place? He'll probably drop in the rankings within a week. Haha, what a misfit. He won't amount to anything." Despite receiving many criticisms, Han's spirit remained unshaken. Meanwhile, Sung-chan walked into the hallway looking exhausted. "Finally, it's over." He yawned and lamented. Why are there 8 mind-numbingly boring theory classes? While complaining, he noticed Han was also there. Han let out a sigh of relief. At least tomorrow is all practical classes, Song-chan mumbled. But Han just gave him a light punch to the chest. See, I told you that you should exercise. With just one light punch, Seong-chan collapsed, prompting Han to say with contempt, "You weakling! Are you really a magician?" Being belittled, Song-chan scowled and snapped back, "You muscle-brained oaf! Can't I even mess with you using magic now?" As he walked away, Han said, "If you're that upset, then just try to surpass me." Song-chan clenched his fists, vowing, "I'll become stronger than you and punch you back." Han just laughed happily and made a suggestion. "Oh, really? How about we hit the training room after dinner for a change of pace?" Song-chan froze awkwardly. "I'd like to, but I can't right now." Han crossed his arms, looking serious. "If you don't like it, just say it." Seong-chan quickly grabbed his shoulder to explain. "It's not that I hate training. I just hate training with you. Understand?" Han raised an eyebrow. "You still really hate me." "So what if I do?" Song-chan admitted. "To be honest, I'm a little intimidated by the way everyone looks at you." In the Oberon Academy training hall, Shin Haun was displaying astonishing strength, effortlessly lifting weights that seemed to weigh tons, as if they were mere toys. The other students stood around sweating profusely, watching with a mixture of awe and anxiety. Many of them wondered to themselves, who is this guy? Is it even possible for a human to lift such an insane amount of weight? After a while, Han gently set the weights down. He wiped his face with a towel, let out a long sigh, and took a swig from his water bottle. A thought flashed through his mind. I've been so focused on mastering the Baeneo-style magic that I've neglected my physical training. I almost forgot how crucial this is. He continued to drink his water, thinking to himself that even Idris's book stated that the infinite magic circuit flows throughout the body and is intrinsically linked to one's physical condition. A healthy body combined with a powerful magic circuit creates synergy, which enhances its effectiveness. I need to master both magic and physical conditioning to maximize my power. Another morning, on the Academy's training grounds, Han found himself facing 3 strange cheetah-like beasts, each one possessing a dangerous third eye. They growled as they surrounded him from all sides. Without hesitation, all 3 lunged to attack simultaneously. Han took a step back, his eyes widening, and in an instant, he conjured a magic circle, from which needle-sharp crystals shot out, piercing the first beast and causing it to dissipate instantly. The remaining 2 charged at him simultaneously, their jaws open wide, ready to pounce, but Han instinctively ducked, causing the 2 beasts to crash into one another. He raised his hand, quickly cast a fire spell, and yelled, "Volcano!" while casting the spell. He retreated to continue the fight. "Let's keep going." Another one vanished, leaving just one. At that moment, the instructor announced that Shin Haun had completed the monster combat training. Jiangsu checked his tablet and nodded. Perfect. A maximum score. Han smiled in response. "Thank you, sir." After practice, Han sat on a bench, lost in thought as he stared at his hands. He mused to himself that thanks to the infinite magic circuit, his physical condition had improved by 1.5 times. He clenched his fist with determination. If I can achieve the 3rd circuit, my power will grow even more. I have to level up the infinite magic circuit quickly. Han closed his eyes, his aura growing more distinct. He focused his mind, circulating the 2 types of mana within his body, the circuit of will and the circuit of resonance, adjusting their vibrational frequency and rotational speed to 12.25% and 4.63%, respectively, increasing the mana purity of the will circuit to 8.9%. Just a little more. The 2 circuits gradually synchronized, nearing perfection. After a while, Han tilted his head back and sighed in exhaustion, sweat dotting his forehead. He thought that the synchronization rate had reached 99%, but even after hundreds of thousands of repetitions, he couldn't bridge the final 1%. Still, he smiled and clenched his fist. I will succeed, no matter what. That evening, Han was taking a casual stroll down the street. He wore wireless earbuds, his steps falling in a steady rhythm on the sidewalk. As he turned into an alley, he suddenly sensed a dark figure hiding behind him. But it was too late. A fist flew towards him, but Han managed to dodge it just in time. The attacker revealed himself, clad entirely in black, facing someone who clearly intended to assassinate him. Han began to question him loudly, but then he abruptly fell silent, his eyes widening in shock. The familiar eye and hair color made him call out the name, Baek Sa-hyuk. The moment Han said the name, the other guy lunged at him again, but his attacks failed to connect. Sa-hyuk angrily sneered. "You're a real pro at dodging, just like a little rat." Han slowly knelt to pick up his earbud, asking calmly, "What's up not going home for the weekend?" He looked up, a mocking smile on his face. "Oh, that's right. It's not that you're not going home. You can't go home. Can you? You're on probation, so your hands are tied even if you wanted to." He then stood up, facing Sa-hyuk directly. The guy trembled with rage from the taunt and growled, "Shut your mouth before I take care of you!" Han burst out laughing. "Ha ha! You use that much of your family's influence and this is the only result even if I weren't on probation. I wouldn't go home either. It's too embarrassing. Or perhaps you just don't have anywhere else to go." Constantly provoked by Han's contempt, Sa-hyuk flew into a rage. He raised his hand and began to cast a fire spell, screaming, "Shut up! You bastard!" Han's eyes widened in surprise. Is this guy really planning to attack me with magic right here in the middle of the street? Sa-hyuk leaped towards Han, a ball of fire clutched in his hand, roaring, "You scum!" Han's eyes turned cold as steel. He dodged the attack, grabbing Sa-hyuk's wrist with one hand and the back of his collar with the other, causing Sa-hyuk's eyes to widen in astonishment. Han swiftly swept his legs out from under him, grabbed his hood, and slammed Sa-hyuk to the ground, making him cry out in pain. Han frowned at the arrogant punk in front of him, as Sa-hyuk screamed repeatedly, "Let me go, you bastard!" At that moment, Han thought to himself that this was a good opportunity. Not long after, the Oberon Academy's disciplinary team quickly appeared. They immediately surrounded Sa-hyuk, restraining both of his arms. He continuously cursed. "Let me go, I'm going to kill that bastard today." A member of the disciplinary team spoke up to calm him down. "Settle down. This will all be sorted out later." He looked at Sa-hyuk, who was causing a scene, then turned to a nearby guard and said, "I had to stop him because he attacked me with magic. Everything was recorded on CCTV. I can't believe he dared to use magic in a place like this." The guard spoke up. "We'll discuss the details tomorrow at the academy. It's late, so you should head back to your dorm." Sa-hyuk was then escorted into the authorities' vehicle. "Just keep acting like that. Bak Sa-hyuk." The next morning at the academy, all the students were gathered in front of the large notice board. They were gossiping excitedly. "Have you heard Bak Sa-hyuk used magic in public over the weekend? It was a huge mess." For real. On the notice board, a new announcement was posted. Bak Sa-hyuk was penalized with a 10-point deduction for using magic off campus, by order of the Oberon Academy Administrative Office. A male student wondered. "But why only a 10-point penalty, is that all?" Someone else replied. "Yeah, isn't that usually enough for expulsion?" Han was also present. He looked at the notice board and thought, Bak Sa-hyuk caused such a huge mess and only lost 10 points. Just as I thought, it's definitely because of the Bak family's influence. That newly prominent family donated a huge sum of money to the academy to earn a title, so the school can't punish him too severely. As Han walked down the hallway, he mused. Bak Sa-hyuk is probably getting a harsh scolding right now. Meanwhile, Sa-hyuk was on the receiving end of his father's wrath. "You crazy brat," Sa-hyuk quickly replied with a worried voice. "Father, I'm sorry," his father yelled into the phone. "I told you to just keep your head down until graduation. Was that so difficult?" Sa-hyuk immediately stammered. It's not like that." His father continued. "If our family doesn't secure the title, it will be all your fault." "Do you understand?" Sa-hyuk flinched. "Yes, I'm sorry. I'll keep that in mind." Suddenly, the person on the other end hung up, causing Sa-hyuk to break out in a cold sweat. Damn it! He was so furious that he slammed his phone against a hallway pillar, gritting his teeth. "Shin Haun!" His eyes widened in fury, and he muttered non-stop. "Shin Haun! Damn it! Shin Haun!" He screamed as he stomped on the shattered phone. "That bastard! Everything! It's all his fault!" Sa-hyuk said, continuing to crush the phone under his foot. Just then, a teacher appeared with a gentle expression. "Oh my! It seems you have a strong dislike for Han, don't you?" Sa-hyuk was startled, gritting his teeth as he glared at the man. "What of it? Mr. Smith? Is that a problem?" The man was an academy teacher named Lang Smith. Smith stepped forward with a smile. "Of course not. It's your right to like or dislike someone. But Sa-hyuk, don't you want to get revenge on Shin Haun?" He leaned in close, making Sa-hyuk feel uneasy. Smith asked in a menacing tone. "Isn't that what you want?" As night fell, Han returned to his academy apartment. In his room, he sat at his desk, phone in hand, lost in thought. After that incident with Bak Sa-hyuk, I could have retaliated more strongly, but in reality, I've gained quite a lot from it. Suddenly, a new message popped up on his screen. Han saw that the sender was his father. The message read, "The negotiations with the Bok family are complete. In exchange for our silence on the matter, we have received 3% of the Bok family's mining rights. You did very well. If there is anything you want as a reward, just let me know." After reading the message, a satisfied smile appeared on Han's face. For the Bok family to hold on to their title, they couldn't just focus on the academy. They also had to maintain good relations with other prestigious families. Therefore, they were forced to take special measures. The Bok family made the right move because, ultimately, the victim of this incident was none other than me, a direct descendant of the Shin family. No matter the cost, the Bok family wanted to bury this scandal. The terms they offered only confirmed how important a title is to a family. A title isn't just a symbol of status, it's the pride of a family. Like being a mage of a mage family or a sorcerer of a sorcerer family, that title is the very measure of a family's standing. And because of this incident, Bok Sahyuk was expelled from his family. With his level of skill, there's no way he can harm me. Han sighed in relief. Holding a book, now everything is settled. I can forget about becoming old man Noendi, and just focus on improving my cultivation techniques. The next morning, the academy was once again bustling with students. Shin Haun was walking along, deep in thought. I wonder if they've tightened control over the instructors because of the Bok Sahyuk incident. Suddenly, a familiar voice that annoyed him called out, "Shin Haun!" Han stopped, turned his head, and saw Mr. Smith. He greeted him politely. "Hello, Mr. Smith?" The teacher smiled warmly. "Yes." But then he suddenly went quiet. His strange gaze on Han made him feel unsettled. The teacher then suddenly chuckled. His voice relaxed. "I've noticed for a while. Han, it seems you don't like me very much. Do you?" Han quickly replied. "Yes, that's right. No, I didn't mean it like that." Mr. Smith continued in a gentle tone. "I understand. I might have said some rather harsh things to you before, but it was all meant as sincere advice. Please don't misunderstand my intentions." Although Han replied, "Yes, sir," he was wondering to himself, "Why is he suddenly acting so strange, Mr. Smith maintained his friendly expression and suggested, "So, from now on, let's have a fresh start." He extended his hand for a handshake. Han could only respond awkwardly. "Oh no, thank you, Professor." But the atmosphere suddenly became unusually tense. He felt uneasy, wondering, what is this unsettling feeling? Meanwhile, Professor Smith wore a strange smile, his voice heavy. "It's a bit late, but congratulations on placing first in the midterm exam. I sincerely hope you find your own path." Harun could clearly feel the killing intent radiating from the professor, sending a cold sweat down his back. He muttered, "It's mana, but I could feel a terrifying aura from him even from a distance." A thought flashed through his mind. Is this magic? This ominous dark mana was from the Black Tower. Upon realizing this, Harun nearly froze. Unlike the 12 recognized towers, the Black Tower was an unofficial one that followed a dark path, a degenerate criminal organization founded by a mage, who called himself the Dark Magic King. Harun glanced over with a wary eye. Damn it. Is Professor Smith involved with the Black Tower? That would mean there were other mages from there in the school. How and since when? He observed in silence, then told himself, no, that's not important right now. Suddenly, Harun's eyes widened in a drastic reaction. First, I need to understand the magic formula to assess the situation. He could see through Professor Smith's AI magic, something massive and overflowing with a dark aura. Harun's focus gradually widened. Why is this magic formula so familiar? This is a mind control spell. He pondered again. Wait, mind control, but my brain has the ability to resist all external interference. So Professor Smith's mind control spell definitely can't affect me. Harun closed his eyes and told himself, looks like I'll survive this. Around him and Smith, everyone was acting normally, seemingly unaware of anything amiss. So the next step is to pretend to be affected by this spell and dig up more information about the Black Tower. Harun slowly opened his eyes, his gaze turning vacant, as if he had lost all consciousness. Professor Smith noticed this, immediately dropped his act, and nodded. Good. Then he uttered a condescending remark. To think a disabled fool who can't even use an AI chip would make me apologize. Smith moved closer, his face almost touching Harun's. Harun, listen carefully. He placed a cube in the boy's hand and ordered, from now on, you must carry this with you at all times and don't ask why. That's all. It's a chip, Harun replied robotically. Yes, sir. But inwardly, he wondered, is that all? Smith spoke again. And Harun, explain your variable magic. Hearing the question, Harun couldn't help but feel enraged. This is something I can't talk about. He immediately feigned a headache, startling Professor Smith. Harun clutched his head, groaning in pain. The professor immediately said, It seems your subconscious desire to keep your vision magic a secret is very strong. All right, stop. Harun smirked, letting out a soft, He slowly analyzed the mind control magic. It directly interferes with the target's brain, amplifying emotions or controlling them at will. This is the signature magic of the Black Tower. If a high-level mage uses it, the victim's mind can even collapse, making it an extremely dangerous forbidden spell. And as I just witnessed, if the affected person has a strong will regarding specific memories, shatter their mind. Seeing how easily he gave up, it seems my variable magic isn't the target he's aiming for. Smith suddenly gritted his teeth, clutching his forehead. You possess vision magic that doesn't suit your status. So I tried to devalue you. Tisk. Well, I can't let this mission fail. Smith snapped his fingers decisively. Then after the mission is over, I'll take your vision magic. Harun immediately pretended to snap out of it, looking at Smith with a dazed expression. The man quickly resumed his role as a model teacher. Harun, are you all right? You lost focus while we were talking. You must be tired. I won't bother you anymore. Good luck. Harun replied. Oh yes, I understand. Smith left, disappearing into the crowd of students at the academy. Harun watched his retreating back, his expression turning serious. A while later, during the lunch break, students gathered to go to the canteen. I'm starving. Let's go to the cafeteria. But Harun went to the school campus alone. He sat down on a long wooden bench, staring at the palm of his hand. He held it up for a closer look. This is an illegal AI chip. This is an innovative upgrade chip. Giving this to me means their goal is to frame me as a user of an illegal AI. I'll end up being the subject of scandalous headlines while they enjoy a wicked laugh. Harun pondered again. They want to ruin my image. Professor Smith has no reason to harm me. Of course, we've had our disagreements, but someone must have hired the Black Tower to do this. He continued to think. In that case, I can roughly estimate the scale of this situation. Harun recalled the arrogant guy who kept shouting 4 words. I will kill you, he thought to himself. This mess is beyond the capabilities of someone under house arrest, so it seems it was done by one of my 2 older brothers or 2 older sisters. They want to tarnish my image and completely remove me from the succession race. 4 people with clear motives. First, my eldest sister, Minji, isn't actively involved in the succession war, so she wouldn't do this. My eldest brother, Insu, but he doesn't have the guts to pull off such a bold move. That leaves one of the other 2. Or both of them. Run clenched the chip in his hand, wondering. Should I just capture Professor Smith and interrogate him? But then he reasoned differently. No, the Black Tower is very sensitive about information. Professor Smith probably doesn't even know who the client is. If I capture him, the information trail will go cold. It's not good for me to get on the Black Tower's radar right now. Han continued to ponder, and after a short while, he arrived at Kang Hyun's Blue Tower. As soon as he stepped onto the floor, he saw Kang Hyun standing in his office, greeting him with a simple phrase. Hello, Han? Kang Hyun turned around, his eyes narrowing slightly as he asked. So, what did you want to talk to me about? Han approached, thinking to himself. Kim Kang Hyun, the master of the Blue Tower, seems colder than usual. But this is the perfect time. Kang Hyun raised a hand to his face and said, I've told you before, don't think of yourself as a burden. His eyes seemed to be avoiding contact, which only motivated Han further. It was now or never. He broke out in a sweat, thinking, it's just as the rumors say. What could he be researching to be this anxious? Han stepped forward and asked directly. What are you researching? Kang Hyun replied. Well, I'm studying a strange type of magic stone, and it's taking more time than I thought. Han glanced at his desk and saw a sparkling stone resting in an exquisite box. He thought to himself, that's the elemental hybrid mana stone. Han smiled inwardly, realizing this was a rare opportunity. Kang Hyun invited him to sit on the sofa beside him and began their conversation. Since we're both busy, let's get straight to the point. The matter you wanted to discuss with me is so important it couldn't be delayed. So what is it you wanted to discuss in person? Kang Hyun's face clearly showed his curiosity and eagerness. Han, breaking out in a cold sweat, replied, You seem a little worked up. If you continue like this, I'm afraid you won't be able to hear anything I say. Then let's begin the negotiations. Before diving into details, Han quickly spoke up. I have some important information to share with you. The magic stone you, the Tower Master, are researching is an elemental hybrid monostone. This information left Kang Hyun stunned. He stared wide-eyed and asked, how could you know that its name has never been revealed externally, to say nothing of its very existence? As the secret was laid bare, the atmosphere grew tense. Kang Hyun warned with a stern face. Hey, you need to be careful what you say. Han held up his hands to calm him down. I didn't plant any spies in the Blue Tower or steal any information. Kang Hyun still couldn't hide his curiosity. Then how do you know? Han rummaged through his bag and pulled out another mana stone, one much more brilliant than the raw stone on the desk. He said, the reason is simple. I have one too. This caused Kang Hyun to leap to his feet, his face a mask of astonishment. Han confirmed, exactly. This is a perfectly crafted elemental hybrid monostone. Kang Hyun stammered. Han, don't tell me you crafted it yourself. Han nodded. That's right. I did. This revelation made it impossible for Kang Hyun to suppress his disbelief. Ha ha. How ridiculous, he thought. The Red Tower's top magic engineer, Jiller, is hailed as the best magic stone crafter in the world. Even the elite artisans of the Blue Tower, who are famous for their skills, and even I, one of the top 3 crafters in the world, couldn't craft this gem. And yet a normal high school student managed to do it. Kang Hyun stared intently at the stone, filled with questions. Han? Or are you just someone who happened to acquire this magic stone by chance? Han replied. That's right. I discovered the Blue Tower is the only place that can process this magic stone, and I just happened to bring it with me. Sweating, Kang Hyun pressed on. Can I ask how you got it? Han replied without hesitation. There's not much of a story. I just stumbled upon it and was lucky enough to craft it. This only made Kang Hyun more determined to recruit him for the Blue Tower. I'm telling you, your luck is incredible. Seeing Hyun's eyes shining like headlights, Han could only offer a strained smile. Kang Hyun said, all right, mages are entitled to their secrets, so I won't press you any further. Han replied. Thank you. Kang Hyun quickly grabbed his magnifying glass and professional tools. May I have your permission to take a closer look? Han happily handed over the stone. Of course. Kang Hyun took it and observed it meticulously. This was the only magic stone in existence that simultaneously held all 4 elements. He handed the stone back to Han and asked, so, what purpose did you have in bringing it here? Han replied, I want to use it to create an item. Kang Hyun pressed on. An item? What kind are you thinking of clothing? An accessory? Or a weapon? Han nodded. As long as it enhances elemental magic performance, anything is fine. Kang Hyun hesitated for a moment. I understand, but a high-grade magic stone requires high-grade materials, and the crafting fee will be extremely expensive. Are you all right with that? Han's expression soured, prompting Kang Hyun to quickly amend his statement. Oh, my apologies. You're the scion of a magic family, so I'm sure your family can cover the cost. Kang Hyun tried to persuade him with an enthusiastic expression, but Han immediately cut him off. No, that's not an option. He raised a hand to silence him. I want to keep this crafting project a secret from my family and everyone else. Kang Hyun quickly drew in the air with 6 magic strokes, displaying the number 645 million. He laughed loudly. Ha ha! Han! You're very clever! But what about the crafting fee? It will likely be around this figure. He continued. Can you afford this on your own, without your family's support? Han replied instantly. No, but I have another solution. I will craft the elemental hybrid monostone right here, in front of you, the master of the magic tower. Han's words sent a shock through Kang Hyun. So, you mean to say you'll pass on the crafting method to me? Right now? Han's nod sent a wave of joy through Kang Hyun. Excellent. That will not only be enough to cover the costs, but we'll even make a profit. Han continued. Could I ask you for one more thing? Kang Hyun agreed with a warm smile. What is it? Is it related to our business today? Han presented an object. It was the very chip that Smith had sent him. Kang Hyun took it and examined it closely. This is a new generation upgrade chip, a kind of low-cost imprint chip. Where did you get this? Han clenched his fist and replied, A mage from the Black Tower at the Academy gave it to me. I'm requesting that you help me deal with the Black Tower mages infiltrating Oberon Academy. That night, a white car was parked on the curb. Han got out, looked at the driver inside, and said, Get inside safely. Take care. The driver was Kang Hyun's secretary, whose real name was Jong Soo, replied, "Yeah, we'll see each other again soon." Then she drove off, and Han stood there silently watching. He finally entered the academy's dormitory. Han jumped onto his bed and lay down comfortably. How lucky. I never expected Kim Kang Hyun to be researching the mala element. He smiled to himself, thinking, thanks to this, I can keep it a secret from my father and still craft the item. He then pictured Sa Hyuk, who would probably scream in anger. I can't let this kid get away with this. Han thought further. At first, I only intended to ask for 3% of the shares from Biga's mining rights, but now I can keep it all. This is great. He slowly closed his eyes. If everything goes well. Back when Kang Hyun was still at the Green Tower, he remained skeptical. It's hard to believe. I heard security at Oberon Academy is extremely strict, yet there are Black Tower mages hiding there, and the only proof is this chip. Han wondered. Is it really that difficult? Kang Hyun smiled, his eyes full of calculation. He quickly explained. Normally, we at the Green Tower wouldn't act based solely on a student's suspicion or unreliable clues. But it's okay. Let's take the risk. Han navigated through a dense crowd while on the phone. From the other end, Kang Hyun's voice came through. Have you arrived? Han replied. Yes, I'll be counting on you to execute the plan. The elevator doors opened, and Han quickly stepped inside. Kang Hyun spoke again. All right, don't worry. As long as the information is accurate. The magic tower. No, we won't make any mistakes, Han replied trustingly. Yes, I believe you. Just as the elevator started moving, he added, then I'll contact you again later. As soon as the elevator doors opened, he stepped into the hallway where a butler was waiting for him. Han smiled brightly and said, I've arrived, my dear brothers and sisters. In front of him was a long table where the Shin siblings had already gathered and were waiting for Han. Shin Min, the second young lady of the Shin family, was the first to greet him. Oh my, it's been a while. Han, he smiled and replied, long time no see. You haven't changed a bit, sister. Min answered cheerfully. Are you complimenting me? Then she observed, Han, you've grown so much, haven't you? Soon, you'll be even taller than in Hyuk. Shin and Hyuk, the second young master of the Shin family, also chimed in with a laugh. Min, don't say things like that. He walked over and placed a hand on Han's shoulder. Welcome back. Honestly, it's hard to be completely happy, but welcome back anyway. Han replied in kind. Yes, thank you, brother. He thought to himself, he's as blunt as ever. Hearing in Hyuk's tactless words, Min immediately turned to scold him. Brother, why do you always say unnecessary things? And Hyuk still didn't realize his mistake, and asked back, did I say something wrong? Han fell silent for a moment, then looked to the other side with a different kind of smile. Long time no see, brother Jihan, sister Seiya. The two of them hadn't proactively greeted him, so now they had to speak up. The eldest young master of the Shin family, Shin Jihan, said, Haha, you're no longer a chubby kid but have become a real man. The eldest young lady of the Shin family, Shin Seiya, also replied, It's been a while, little brother. Han smiled, but his inner thoughts were different. These two are just smiling on the outside, but it's clear they want to eat me alive. So the culprits are here. Jihan raised his wine glass and suggested, let's sit, eat, and talk. I'm curious why our youngest brother called us all here. His eyes glinted mysteriously. Han sat down and replied, It's nothing special. I just wanted to see my brothers and sisters after a long time, so I arranged this gathering. Seiya couldn't hide her suspicion. You called all of us here for such a trivial reason, Han said with a smile. Even if I didn't do it, Brother Jihan or Sister Seiya would have done it anyway, right? His words seemed to strike a nerve with Seiya, causing her to slam the table and stand up. What, I can't stand this brat? All right, just spit it out. What's your plan? Han feigned innocence. What do you mean by plan? Sister. See? Ah was furious. Don't play dumb. Are you planning to join the succession contest or not? Han immediately replied. If I said I'm not interested, would you believe me? Seiya yelled. Who would believe that? Han retorted. Then why did you ask? Seiya was indescribably angry, muttering, You insufferable brat. Seeing her lose control, Jihan spoke up. Seiya, you shouldn't say that. With issues like this, words aren't enough. You have to prove it with actions. He then asked cunningly. By the way, Han, I heard you recently acquired a rather impressive ocular art called magic transformation, right? Could you share that magic with our family? Han was startled to hear this. He thought to himself, brilliant. By sharing the ocular art, I would prove that I'm giving up on the succession contest. But it's not a bluff. Se-ah seemed excited. Brother, that sounds great. Han's lips curled into a smirk before he put on a tearful face, his eyes glistening. In a soft voice, he said, Brother, sister, this ocular art is my only hope. For someone like me who is unfit to be a mage, it's my only chance to live. I can't possibly share it. This has nothing to do with the succession race. Min, also tearing up, replied, It's okay. Then you don't have to say anything. It's our little brother's only hope. The more Jihan listened, the more confused he became, and even in Hyuk and Se-ah were at a loss for words. Min gently wiped away Han's tears. He responded with a pained expression. Thank you for understanding, sister. At that very moment, In-hyuk raised his glass, trying to break the heavy atmosphere. Haha, well, let's put this pointless argument aside. Why don't we just chat and relax a bit? Minji nodded. Yeah, I want to hear more of Hazoon's stories. Meanwhile, Jihan remained silent. On the table, wine, silverware, and a small elegant cake were already set out. Jihan and Si were laughing and chatting happily during the get-together. In-hyuk, Minji, and Hazoon were just as lively. They were engrossed in their conversation. When the clock ticked, Hazoon glanced at it, thinking to himself, It's been a while. Maybe I should... Suddenly, a breaking news alert popped up on their phone screens. Everyone stopped at once, picking up their phones with surprised expressions. Minji asked, What's going on? In-hyuk exclaimed. This is an emergency alert, Si worriedly asked. Right now at this hour, Jihan clenched his teeth, his face clearly showing anger after reading the news. The emergency alert read, An employee of Oberon Academy has been identified as a criminal mage connected to the Black Tower. Lang Smith, the second son of this prestigious Smith family in France, has been arrested. The arresting officer is Jong-soo, a Sixth Circle mage and secretary to Kang-hyun Kim of the Blue Tower. Immediately after, Jihan put his phone in his pocket. Every move he made was carefully observed by Hazoon. He smiled to himself. Got you. Looking at Jihan's scowling face as he read the news. It was easy to guess he was the culprit. Even so, Jihan maintained a calm facade, showing no emotion. Hazoon thought, Shin Jihan, it was you, wasn't it, on the way home? Hazoon was still in contact with Kang-hyun through his earpiece. Kang-hyun said, Well, it seems you were right. Hazoon. Another breaking news alert was sent at 10:31 p.m. Jong-soo, a Sixth Circle mage and assistant to Kang-hyun Kim of the Blue Tower, had discovered the suspicious activities of Lang Smith. In the training supply room of Oberon Academy, Lang Smith was allegedly tampering with materials for the survival test. If Jong-soo hadn't happened to stop by the supply room, who knows what disaster could have occurred during the test on Friday. The South Korean government, the Korean Mage Association, and the International Mage Association have declared that they will not overlook this infiltration by the Black Tower, Kang-hyun asked. But how did you know Lang Smith would meddle with the training supplies? Hazoon replied confidently. I just drew a conclusion based on the available intelligence. Considering Professor Smith had already infiltrated the academy, it was highly likely he would act on campus. When I thought about the time he used mind control on me, along with this week's schedule, I deduced that Friday, the day of the survival test, would be when he'd make his move. If he wanted to exploit something in the test, he would surely interfere with the training materials. The supply check usually happens the afternoon before the test. Therefore, the only time he could intervene without being noticed would be right then. Professor Smith was applying magic to the test dummies. Jong-soo, who was already in ambush, immediately rushed in and arrested Lang Smith right in the act. Tonight is Thursday, so I had the Blue Tower monitor the supply room. Professor Smith was startled and fell to the ground, as then continued to think. All that's left is to gather my siblings to find the mastermind behind the Black Tower. As expected, we caught Professor Smith. The information quickly spread to all members of the Shin clan, confirming the presence of a spy from the Black Tower at Oberon Academy, Professor Lang Smith. I also suspected a connection between Shin Jihan and the Black Tower. I executed the plan perfectly, gathering information without revealing myself. Hazoon smirked. It was a perfect execution. He continued to think. My only regret is that there's still no decisive proof of the relationship between Jihan and Professor Smith. But I'll eventually find it if I keep digging. On the other end, from the Blue Tower, Kang-hyun laughed and said, Hazoon, I intended to help you this time, but I ended up being the one who received help. The Blue Tower's reputation has skyrocketed thanks to solving this case. After hearing this, Haezun replied sincerely, I will definitely repay this favor. I won't turn it down. Kang Hyun laughed heartily. Ha! I like your honesty. All right, I'll wrap things up. Haezun replied before hanging up. Yes, thank you. Be careful. He took off his earpiece. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted behind Haezun. He broke into a sweat, gritting his teeth and wondering, Sahyuk! The guy raised his hand, quickly creating a system interface and launching a fire attack at Haezun. Haezun immediately used his magic, struggling to exclaim, so fast. He instantly activated his resonance enhancement skill, then cast water magic, creating a shield made of ocean waves. He shouted, Water shield! Haezun poured all his strength into blocking the attack, thinking, it's too strong. At this rate, the water shield won't hold. He grabbed his own wrist, trying to maintain and adjust the water shield. Haezun quickly dashed to the side as Sahyuk's fire blast shot forward. An explosion immediately erupted, sending him flying into a nearby pillar. Haezun looked at his own smoking palm, thinking to himself, as I thought, I couldn't dodge it completely. Sahyuk looked at his own hand and said coldly, this is the gap between our skills. Then he looked up at Haezun with monstrous eyes, drooling, and screamed maniacally, just keep struggling, you useless piece of trash. Face reality. Haezun sat on the ground, frowning as he called out to Sahyuk. He watched the man laughing insanely and thought, wait, there's something very strange about this guy. His eyes are bloodshot, and his skin is completely flushed. This reaction, an illegal stimulant, called Berserker. The drug's property is to force the mana circle to overload, causing blood vessels to rupture. It turns a person's appearance into that of a berserker, a blood-soaked warrior. But more importantly, its user will fight to the death. Haezun shouted, are you insane? But Sahyuk continued to charge at him, saying bloodthirstily, me insane? No, I'm perfectly fine. He started to sweat more. Sahyuk used a third circle magic spell, Fire Strike. He approached Haezun in a flash, restraining him with both hands. Haezun scowled, trying to break free from his grasp while cursing the madman. Sahyuk didn't seem any more lucid. In fact, he looked even more like a lunatic. I already told you, I'm completely normal. Or rather, I've just returned to normal. Ha ha, you're about to die. His eyes widened, glowing with madness. Haezun was now being pinned down by one of Sahyuk's hands, the heat from the fire magic scorching his throat. The guy shouted, Fire Strike! And immediately a violent explosion erupted. When the smoke cleared, Sahyuk looked down at Haezun's body lying flat on the ground and sneered. Oh, look at this bastard! Haezun's face was severely injured as he dazedly looked up at Sahyuk. The latter asked doubtfully, You're still alive? Then suddenly, Sahyuk clutched his head, his speech becoming erratic. You blocked my magic twice. A piece of trash like you. How dare you? Haezun slowly got to his feet, wiping the blood from his cheek and breathing heavily. Sahyuk suddenly grabbed his own hair and let out a pained scream, but then he let go, his expression becoming calm. Well, it's fine. Haezun watched his crazy act and whispered, Just as I thought, erratic mood swings. It's definitely the berserker drug. Sahyuk staggered forward, wondering to himself, but that mana was just absurd. Haezun recalled the moment he quickly used a shield to dodge the attack. He reasoned, no matter how many berserker potions he took, he couldn't be this strong. Perhaps I should investigate further. Haezun grew more suspicious, while Sahyuk's eyes turned red as he stared at him. Where are you looking, you little brat? Haezun slowly formed a spell in his hand, then threw it up to summon swirling wind spirits. He shouted, Wind sphere! Immediately, the spirits gathered energy and shot straight towards Sahyuk. How dare you use such trashy magic? Haezun calmly replied. I should have been more careful with it, but I never expected to end up in this situation. Before Sahyuk could react, Haezun had already rushed in from below, carrying his magic sphere. Sahyuk's eyes and skin grew redder, and he looked even more furious. It's right below. Haezun raised the magic sphere and slowly cast his spell. Airstrike. An intense beam of light struck down on Sahyuk, leaving him no time to react. His eyes widened in horror. Haezun breathed a sigh of relief. It hit! At that moment, Sahyuk activated a destructive power with just a single finger. He summoned a pellet of fire. It shot from his fingertip like a bullet, Haezun thought to himself. Fire mana. At this distance, it's a flame shot. Sahyuk roared in a frenzy. Die! Immediately. He continuously fired fire bullets at a dizzying speed towards Haezun. He quickly dodged while analyzing the situation. The flame shot has incredible power at close range, but its range is only about 25.4 feet. If I'm fast enough, I can still avoid it. After the barrage of attacks, Sahayuk threw his head back and laughed maniacally, making Hazen even more worried. Impossible! The streams of fire continued to pour towards him. Hazun panted, wiping away the burns caused by the fire. He spoke up. Do you hate me so much that you had to use the Y-chip? Sahayuk laughed uncontrollably as he continued to cast his spells, ignoring Hazun's words. The Y-chip? What the hell are you talking about? Hazun could only shake his head in dismay. It makes sense that you don't remember. On the back of Sahayuk's neck, a chip was emitting a strange purple light. He said scornfully, Why would I need to use that on a useless punk like you? Sahayuk immediately flew into a rage, shouting and launching another attack. If you're going to keep spouting nonsense, then shut your mouth. Die. Hazen easily dodged his dark mana attacks. He continued to explain. The effect of the Y-chip is to enhance the user's physical abilities and mana structure, altering both the power and range of their magic. Sahayuk yelled. So what? You bastard! Hazen calmly watched the magic attacks continue to rain down on him and said, The funny thing is, I'm also researching the transformation of magic circle structures and mana, as well as the conversion of mana structures. Thanks to that, I'm very sensitive to magical changes caused by mana reinforcement and magic circle breakthroughs. His own thought to himself. I don't know if this is lucky or unlucky, but I found a clue thanks to this guy's Y-chip and his potion. Sahayuk frowned and shouted, What the hell are you talking about, you bastard? Hazun raised his hand and began to cast a spell. He said, I'm not grateful to you at all. It was only a matter of time before I figured it out anyway. He immediately shouted the spell's name. Resonance. Anyone who reaches this level will surpass their current limits. However, for the past few days, I've been thinking while reading the book. He clutched his forehead and continued. The problem is the penalty. The penalty increases when combining different types of magic circles, putting a strain on both the body and the mind. The result is a time limit. If I reach the second circle and use resonance, the time limit is 3 minutes. Slowly, red and blue mana circles began to surround his body. Hazan continued. For the next 12 hours after that, the mana circle can't be moved. I have to think carefully before using it. Sahayuk watched him monologue and laughed, saying arrogantly, You fool. Are you scared because you're all alone? Hazan closed his eyes. Let's see. The time limit for resonance is 3 minutes. 3 minutes. After a moment, he opened his eyes, squatted down, and said, That's more than enough time. Hazan placed his hand on the ground and shouted the spell. Earth Spike. Immediately, sharp spikes filled with mana energy began to erupt from the ground, shooting from Hazan's position towards Sahayuk and growing larger as they went. One of the sharp thorns pierced through Sahayuk's leg, making him cry out in pain as he looked down at the wound in astonishment. He frowned, his voice filled with disbelief. That's level 3 magic. How can a nobody like you possibly use it? Han just chuckled softly, scratching his head lightly before replying. Why not? Without hesitation, Sahayuk summoned an attack panel and launched a blast of fire toward Han, screaming, Die! The protagonist immediately summoned a water shield. A shield of swirling water quickly materialized, completely blocking Sahayuk's fireball. Sahayuk scoffed. You couldn't block it last time, so why are you trying it again? Just burn to a crisp. But contrary to his expectations, Han's water shield suddenly transformed into a raging whirlpool, causing Sahayuk to grimace intensely as he muttered. What the hell is this? Han smirked victoriously, controlling the waters with one hand, his voice full of confidence. You should assess the situation before you run your mouth. If it were me, after seeing that Earthshaker spell, I would have realized this water shield was on a completely different level. Trembling with resentment, Sahayuk screamed. Han, I get it now. You're using a performance enhancer, aren't you? That's the only way you could be this strong. In his fury, Sahayuk outrightly accused him. Han closed his eyes, his voice calm. It's over. Each of his steps glided lightly across the water's surface, as if he were walking through a silent, tense void. Darkness began to envelop the area. Sahayuk felt a strange sensation and raised an eyebrow. What is this? The darkness gradually obscured his vision, leaving Sahayuk alone to scream into the void. Come out, stop hiding, Han, I'm right here! Han. Han's voice calmly cast a spell. Unbreakable Earthbind. Chains materialized from thin air, wrapping tightly around Sa-Hyuk and restraining him completely. He could only scream in despair against the binding magic. Beneath him, the shadows began to slowly creep up his ankles. Han spoke, his voice cold. "It's too late." Sa-Hyuk screamed back. "Don't give me that crap, it's not over yet. If you had never shown up, my life would have been completely different." Han walked right past Sa-Hyuk, but his opponent didn't even notice his presence. Han's voice echoed. "You really think your life would have changed?" "I don't think so." Han's voice sounded as if it was right next to his ear, sending Sa-Hyuk into a state of delusion. He muttered, "Where are you? Where are you, you bastard?" Ignoring the question, Han continued, "You'd just find someone else to blame. By the way, do you know why people avoid using illegal AIs, besides the physical side effects?" Sa-Hyuk's suspicions were immediately aroused. Just then, Han slowly reached for the chip embedded in the back of his neck and used his mana to activate it, inflicting excruciating pain upon him. The boy screamed in agony. Han pulled his hand away, a residual glow of mana still lingering on his palm. He smiled and said, "I just injected mana into the frequency of your little chip. How does that feel?" Even with the berserker effect, it's still agonizing, right? As if he had just endured a horrific round of torture. Sa-Hyuk was drenched in sweat, his eyes bloodshot, as he mumbled, "Stop." Han continued, "The AI and your body have already surpassed their limits, and could collapse at any moment from the slightest touch." Han lightly prodded the chip, causing Sa-Hyuk to groan in agony, tears and saliva streaming down his face. He said calmly, "Oh, and I should thank you for your reckless stunt. Did you really think you'd get anything good out of Bega? The scale of this incident is incomparable to anything before. 30% of the magic stone mining rights. No, actually, it might even be 40%. Hearing Han's taunts, Sa-Hyuk trembled and began to sob. Han continued to channel his mana. He brought his hand close to the chip, smiled brightly, and said his farewell. "Goodbye now." Thanking him for his generosity, Han pressed his power into the chip, injecting a massive amount of magic. The chip slowly began to ooze a glossy black fluid, and a moment later, an intense pain shot through his entire body. Sa-Hyuk's neck was torn apart. The chip released all the energy it had absorbed. He let out one final, agonizing scream. His body lay motionless on the ground, smoke rising from the back of his neck. Han bent down to pick up a phone. He called his father, in Hyuk. When the call connected, he immediately said, "Dad, it's me, Han." His father asked, "Yes, why are you calling so late?" Han briefly summarized what happened, then said, "I've figured it all out. It's highly unusual for no students or police to show up when a major incident like this occurs at the dorms, no matter how late it is." And Hyuk replied, "The students were probably all gone by then. You can't conclude it was me just because I have the power to stop the police." Han smiled in response. "Plenty of people could stop the police, but only you would watch the entire fight until the very end. Anyone else would have jumped in midway, or even tried to stab me in the back. And because of the guardianship agreement, my siblings can't monitor me either." After a moment, Hyuk replied, "You're right." As he was talking on the phone, a rustling sound from the nearby bushes caught his attention. A figure slowly stepped out. It was a shadow guard. He was dressed entirely in black from head to toe, but his eyes glowed with a dangerous red light. He bowed respectfully to Han, and at the same time, Hyuk's voice came through the phone. "I had to send Hyon to follow you." After handing Sa-Hyuk's body over to the shadow guards, Han quickly moved to a corner to continue the call. His father's annoyed voice came through. "Oh, so you knew I was watching. Then why didn't you ask for my help?" Han fumbled for a lie. I wanted to show you my level 3 magic." Hyuk sighed. "I never thought you'd achieve it so quickly. This means you've been hiding the fact that you can use level 3 magic." Han confirmed without hesitation. "Yes, that's right." But he thought to himself, "Of course, that's a lie. I actually just used a resonance effect from level 2 magic." He then spoke his true feelings aloud. "I'm still not strong enough. If they knew I used 3rd level magic, it would be hard to imagine the interference from my other siblings," Shin Haun said, glancing at the masked person kneeling nearby. Seeing that he had handled the situation well, Shin and Hyuk nodded. Not bad. I'll send a car. Come home and stay the night." Shin Haun didn't refuse and replied, "Yes, thank you, Father. I'll see you when I get back." After that, he hung up the call. On the other end, Shin and Hyuk looked at his phone screen and smiled with satisfaction. He laughed heartily and said, "I don't know what you've been doing this past year, but your confidence is astonishing. Back with Shin Haun, he looked at the person kneeling on the ground and said with a smile, "Long time no see. Seo Hyun." The other person gently removed his mask. Seo Hyun greeted him seriously. "It has been a long time, sir. Young Master Han, please allow me a moment." Seo Hyun reached out and used magic to treat the wound on his cheek, saying with a worried look, "Your wound isn't minor. I will apply basic first aid, and the rest will be handled by the family's private doctor." Shin Han smiled sincerely and replied, "Yes, thank you." Then, his expression changed in an instant as he said seriously, "Then I'll leave it to you to handle." Seo Hyun put his mask back on and said confidently, "I won't let any word of this get out." The scene shifts to Shin Ji-han's residence. Shin Ji-han entered his house with a furious expression, kicked the door hard, and cursed. "Damn it! My plan is ruined!" A question arose in his mind. Why did this happen? Just then, a figure appeared in the living room, speaking in a relaxed tone. "Are you done already? I thought I'd have to wait forever. By the way, this is a nice sofa." Shin Ji-han was wary, his eyes scrutinizing. "Are you from the Black Tower?" the stranger sneered, his voice full of sarcasm. "Let's skip that. You're really unlucky. I didn't expect someone from the Blue Tower to crash the party. Well, there's nothing more to say. You were found out before you could even act." Shin Ji-han exploded in anger, shouting, "Is this a time for jokes? Didn't you boast that you've never failed?" The other person quickly waved his hands, offering a placating smile. "Sorry, I joke around too much. Anyway, the mission failed, so I'll refund your fee. Of course, I'll take care of the aftermath. You're a VIP client, so you don't have to worry about information leaks. As for Lang Smith, he won't live to see tomorrow morning." The mysterious man's voice was as cold as a death sentence. Shin Ji-han didn't bother to question it. "That guy Bi-hyuk used the Inchip and Bear to attack Shin Haun. How are you going to handle it?" The mysterious person hummed and chuckled lightly. "Don't worry, that kid is already brain dead." Shin Ji-han was startled and quickly asked, "Brain dead? What do you mean?" The man explained. "It seems he was only targeting Shin Haun. Now he's on the verge of death due to the side effects." To add credibility, the mysterious person even let out a long, fake yawn. Shin Ji-han covered his face in worry. "Then what about Shin Haun?" the mysterious man replied. He was injured but has already left." Shin Ji-han angrily yelled. "Are you playing word games with me?" The man quickly explained. "Oh, not at all. I'm just telling you what I saw." Shin Ji-han gritted his teeth and deduced. "So that means Shin Han defeated Bi-hyuk, the one who used the Inchip and Burr." The mysterious person clapped in praise. "Exactly. That's it." "Well, not quite." The mysterious man recounted. "When Bi-hyuk attacked, it's unclear if he was there to protect or monitor Shin Han. But Seo Hyun appeared. He quickly set up soundproofing and anti-magic barriers. His reaction was quite sharp. I couldn't watch the fight to the end, but it was certainly interesting." As soon as he heard that name, Shin Ji-han was startled. Could it be a shadow guard? Since when did Seo Hyun start following Shin Han? The mysterious person shrugged and replied, "Well, I only saw Seo Hyun after Shin Han parted ways with our VIP client, so I don't know the exact time." Remembering his father's powerful shadow guard unit, Shin Ji-han realized the gravity of the situation. His face paled as he wondered. "Seo Hyun, the leader of the shadow guard who takes orders directly from my father. But why was he there? Why?" He told himself. "If the shadow guard is on the move, I need to be even more careful. Maybe I should stay away from Shin Han for a while." Suddenly, Shin Ji-han remembered something and asked, "What are you going to do about the Inchip that Shin Han has?" The mysterious person waved his hand and replied, "You don't need to worry about that. The Inchip I gave Shin Han has a self-deleting code. It will be destroyed and soon turn into thin air. Any more questions?" Shin Ji-han looked away, annoyed, and answered coldly, "No." "Then I'll be on my way. I need to take care of Lang Smith." After speaking, the mysterious person moved to the window. He leaped from the skyscraper, still wearing a cheerful expression as he said his goodbyes. "I'm off, my dear client." Shin Ji-han stared blankly at the window for a long time, thinking seriously. "I have to make sure Seo Hyun doesn't trace any clues back to me. I'll erase anything that could become evidence." To do that, breaking his own house's security magic system would be easy. "I have to hurry." A few days later, at Shin Han's residence, he had just finished reading a book. Afterwards, he gently stretched to relax his body. At that moment, Shin Haun recalled the information announced by the master of the Blue Magic Tower. Langsmith had suddenly clutched his chest and passed away while being transported. He pouted, thought for a moment, then mused to himself. I was rather looking forward to it, but I didn't expect the outcome to be so anticlimactic. Anyway, Seo Hyeon has already taken care of the Bi Hyuk incident. Just then, the phone on his desk began to buzz continuously. Shin Haun realized it was a message from his father. The message read, "The negotiations with BA have concluded successfully. In exchange for our silence on this matter, we have received 43% of the magic stone mining rights. Good job. Thanks to this, we won't face any financial difficulties with our overseas projects. If there's anything you want, think it over carefully." Shin Haun skimmed the message and smiled with satisfaction. Father sent it all at once. He must be very pleased. He looked out at the clear blue sky and thought to himself, all right, I'm glad everything went smoothly anyway. Now, only this remained. Shin Haun glanced at his phone screen, which displayed information about the grand tournament for top-tier mages, the highest level of competition. The event would take place in 53 days. The Academy Olympiad, an event that excites the entire world. The Academy Olympiad is where the strongest students from magic academies all over the world gather to compete. This year, the fierce competition is about to begin. After reading, Shin Haun couldn't help but smile with excitement. As he was eagerly awaiting the Olympiad, a sudden blue light enveloped him. He immediately realized the 12-hour resonance penalty was over. Shin Haun closed his eyes, feeling the power coursing through his body. Now I need third circle magic. Without hesitation, he summoned his book. As he opened it, an abundant stream of energy poured out. Shin Haun thought to himself, let's turn the page to start the test. Instantly, the book pulled him inside. He struggled to open his eyes, as the bright light made it hard to adjust. He looked around, bewildered by the scene. What is this? Is this white void another world inside the book? Suddenly, a figure appeared from behind him, making him jump. A beautiful girl with pure white hair and sparkling amber eyes appeared. Welcome to test number 2. The girl smiled as she introduced herself. I am Beta, the evaluator for this test. Hearing this, Shin Haun swallowed nervously. He wondered if test number 2 would be like the previous one. He recalled the last test's requirement, which was to perfectly craft an elemental mana stone, not keeping him waiting long. Beta quickly explained. In this test, the successor will be evaluated on their ability to manipulate magic circles at will. The details will be provided when the test begins. If you pass, pages 32 to 81, containing information on third circle magic, will be unlocked. Hearing this, Shin Haun could only cry out in shock. This is insane! He excitedly clenched his fists. An update from page 32 to 81. I thought I'd only get to read about 10 more pages this time. It's fine, he anxiously told himself. But this means third circle magic is on a completely different level, right? It's probably even more advanced than substance rings and resonance. He felt a mix of excitement and fear. Seeing that he was ready, Beta said, Then we shall begin the test now. With that, she vanished into thin air. At the same time, a familiar voice rang out. My disciple, I will now announce the contents of the second test. Shin Haun immediately recognized it as his master. The voice quickly gave the instructions. From this moment, 100 magic circles will appear in sequence. You must activate all of them. Shin Haun immediately manifested his magic circle, preparing himself. His magic circle activated quickly. His master calmly guided him. Once your circle merges with the magic circles, they will activate naturally. Just as Shin Haun began to activate one, it suddenly changed, making him panic. Why did it change at that moment? His master's voice reminded him. You have 3 seconds to activate each magic circle. If you fail within that time, you'll have to start over from the beginning. So, be careful. Shin Haun smiled slyly, thinking to himself. So I just need to memorize them, right? As if reading his mind, the voice added. Also, the sequence of the magic circles changes every time. So don't think about memorizing the pattern. Shin Haun wasn't surprised and thought, right, it was never going to be that easy. He closed his eyes, slowly controlled the energy within his body, and told himself, all right, let's give this a shot. With excitement, Shin Haun began activating the magic circles. After some time had passed, he was back in his familiar house. He stared at the book on his desk, his face pale and his breathing ragged with exhaustion. He exclaimed in despair. Ha! In 8 hours, the most I managed to activate was 10. He sighed, trying to console himself. Well, at least I'm starting to understand it, but I can't finish this with tricks alone. I probably need to find more clues. He immersed himself in his books again. Suddenly, he was startled when he read a line. The book I wrote is not just the Book of Idris. If you encounter an obstacle, seek out my other books. They will definitely be helpful to you. Shin Haun shouted in amazement. So the Elder's book isn't the only one. I'm sure I'll find the others someday. But he immediately realized the problem. I don't even know the book's title or where to look for it. The scene changes to the bustling city outside, where Shin Haun is walking into a convenience store, thinking he needed to get out for some fresh air. As he opened the door, he bumped into a girl who was rushing to say, I'd like to check out. He instantly recognized her and called out, Adela? Adela was also surprised and called back, Haun. The two of them decided to go to a nearby park to chat. Shin Haun smiled and began, We seem to bump into each other a lot, don't we? Adela laughed and replied, We do. He looked at her and teased, You look like you've been up all night. Adela shyly covered her face and retorted, You look the same. Then, she spoke up. I'm reading a really interesting thesis. Would you like to read it? It's called The Feasibility of Spatial Teleportation Magic. Shin Haun took the paper, glanced at its cover, and couldn't help but laugh. Oh, this haha. It looks like a bootleg copy. Adela's eyes lit up expectantly. Yeah, I know, but just try reading it. He wondered why she was so enthusiastic all of a sudden, but he agreed. All right. Shin Haun started to read the thesis seriously. While he was engrossed in its contents, Adela happily sipped on her favorite drink. By the time she had finished 3 cartons of banana milk, Shin Haun cheerfully handed the paper back to Adela and praised it. Oh, this is pretty good. Huh? Adela replied happily. Right. He also nodded. Yeah. Suddenly, they both realized at the same time that it was missing a conclusion. Shin Haun was stunned. He focused on the thesis and thought, This thesis is based on the book left by Baeneo, which I analyzed myself. The moment he thought of that, Shin Haun was horrified. Baeneo. He quickly skimmed the paper again. I knew the structure of this was a little different, but it still had Baeneo's style. Many parts were similar to Baeneo's fundamental theory, but were quite shallow and empty. He hurriedly asked Adela, Who's the author of this book? Startled by his sudden question, Adela replied, Go Sang-run. When he got home, Shin Haun immediately searched for information about the author. However, despite his best efforts, he couldn't find what he was looking for. Feeling dejected, Shin Haun thought to himself, Go Sang-run, a magic researcher unaffiliated with any organization. His age and gender are unknown. The only paper he ever published was the one I just saw. He probably faced a lot of criticism and just disappeared. He sighed as he looked at the paper and wondered, Is this really the limit of what a normal student can find out? Suddenly, Shin Haun picked up his phone and quickly greeted the person on the other end of the line. Ah! Hello! Greetings! Master of the Blue Tower! He thought to himself. But I'm no ordinary student. As it turned out, Shin Haun had contacted the Blue Tower Master to ask for help. At the Blue Magic Tower, the phone rang incessantly, forcing someone to answer it. When he heard the voice on the other end say, Hello, this is Shin Haun. Kim Kang-hyun, exhausted from a long night of research, asked, What is it? Shin Haun replied enthusiastically. I have a matter that will be mutually beneficial. Kim Kang-hyun was taken aback. Instantly recognizing that this was a serious issue, Shin Haun continued, Can you help me find someone? The scene changes to Oberon Academy. In the training hall, numerous students are practicing diligently with intense focus. Shin Haun was using a magic circle to fight, while Zhang Chan was trying to create a shield to block his attack. However, all of Zhang Chan's efforts proved futile, as Shin Haun's powerful and overwhelming attack rushed directly at him. Zhang Chan panicked and yelled, Hey Han, you're cheating! Shin Haun calmly replied, How is this cheating? It's just a first circle spell. What's the issue? As Zhang Chan struggled to dodge each attack, he cursed nonstop. You heartless bastard! How is this fair? It's just a first circle spell. Suddenly, a sharp attack flew toward him, causing Zhang Chan's face to pale, forcing him to grit his teeth and confront it. The result made Shin Haun exclaim in surprise. Oh, Zhang Chan had managed to create a shield around himself just in time, escaping the danger. Shin Haun teased him. See, you blocked it perfectly, Zhang Chan screamed. I almost died. Not backing down. Zhang Chan got up and issued a challenge. All right, let's go hand to hand. What do you say? Shin Haun agreed without a second thought. You're on. But do you really think you can win against me in close combat? While Shin Haun was still talking, Zhang Chan seized the opening and lunged at him with a punch, shouting, Here I come! However, Shin Han's reflexes were sharp. In an instant, he grabbed Zhang Chan's collar and executed a neat shoulder throw, slamming him flat on the floor. The other students watched them in amazement. Shin Han chuckled softly. So, although his smile looked friendly, his raised fist was clearly a threat. Looking at Zhang Chan wailing on the floor, Shin Han remarked, "It wasn't a bad idea." Shin Han continued his backhanded compliment. "In a hand-to-hand fight, the variable of magic is gone, leaving just the strength of a second circle versus a third circle. A smart strategy. Indeed." Zhang Chan cursed in anger. "Are you complimenting me or insulting me? This is so unfair!" He took off his shirt and stuck a pain relief patch on his back, muttering, "Your mana is like a hack, and you're a monster in close combat too." Then he pouted teasingly. "What a troll warrior." Shin Han immediately slapped a large pain patch on his back and said, "If you don't like it, then train harder." Zhang Chan suddenly asked Shin Han, "Have you thought about your future plans yet?" Stunned, Shin Han could only reply with a confused, "Huh." Zhang Chan smiled and continued, "Isn't your goal to win the Academy Olympics?" Startled, Shin Han quickly asked, "How did you know?" Zhang Chan shrugged and explained, "I know you too well. You can't hide anything from me. You performed outstandingly on the Mana Stone Shield test earlier, didn't you? A normal student can only block 27 stones, but you managed to block 74. At this rate, and with how hard you train, you're bound to lead in every event. If you want to compete against the upperclassmen, this is probably your best option at the moment. However, with your current condition, I don't think you'll be able to win the Olympic championship." Zhang Chan's straightforward words left Shin Han stunned. Seeing him silent, Zhang Chan asked again, "Am I right?" Shin Han could only nod in agreement, confirming what his friend had said. Zhang Chan grinned. "I knew it." Then, he added with a serious tone, "Also, the top contender this year is a 5th circle mage. With your 2nd circle magic, it's practically impossible." Shin Han had already considered this. He thought to himself, "Zhang Chan's right. To win the Olympics, even with resonance, I can only use up to 3rd circle magic, but that won't make a huge difference to stand a chance against them. I need to reach at least the 4th circle, and to do that, I have to find Go Sang Run." As the sun began to set, Shin Han followed the address on his phone. Standing in the middle of the street, Shin Han looked around in confusion, wondering, "Where am I?" He couldn't believe finding one person had taken a whole week. This was the first time he'd ever been in this situation. But just as he was thinking about Go Sang Run's location, he found the address he was looking for. He stood in front of a familiar building, completely astonished. "Wait a second, isn't this the used bookstore I frequent?" "He's here, right under my nose, and I had no idea. Who would have thought this person would be right in a shop near the academy after realizing I wasn't suited for AI magic? I've always been searching for magical knowledge in old books. I always wondered where Idris's code originated from. But could it really have come from this place composing himself?" Shin Han decided to step inside. He spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. "Excuse me." Hearing the call, the shop owner, who was arranging things, looked up. "Han, it's been a while." Shin Han also bowed politely. "Are you doing well, sir?" The owner smiled brightly. "Of course. I heard you can use magic now. You look much healthier too." Shin Han smiled humbly. "It's all thanks to you, sir." The owner laughed loudly, his voice teasing. "I didn't do anything. I just sold you books." Shin Han quickly replied, "Those very books helped me a great deal. Thank you." Hearing that, the owner laughed delightedly. "Well, I'll take that as the truth then." Then he asked, "Why are you here today?" Shin Han didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. "Sir, may I meet Go Sang Jun, your son?" The owner asked back in surprise. "Why are you looking for Sang Jun? No. How do you know about Sang Jun?" Shin Han quickly explained. "I read the thesis he wrote. I had some questions, so I did a little research. I heard he was here. I apologize if this is a bit nosy." His tone was sincere and direct. After listening, the owner didn't seem annoyed but simply recalled, "A thesis? Yes, there was something like that." He nodded in agreement. "All right, I'll let you meet him." Just as Shin Han joyfully said, "Thank you, sir," the owner added another sentence that stunned him. "But even if you meet him, you won't get any answers." Shin Han was startled and asked worriedly, "What do you mean by that?" The shopkeeper led him to a door and said, "Follow me. Sang Jun is in here." Shin Han followed without any suspicion. When they arrived, the owner pointed to a room. "Go in. This is his room." But the scene before him was completely different from what he had imagined. The door opened, and Shin Haun saw a frail man lying on a hospital bed, wearing an oxygen mask, his thin, pale arm hooked up to an IV drip. The man lay motionless, his life hanging by a thread. His pale face was peaceful in sleep. Shin Haun asked blankly. "This man is—" the shopkeeper replied, his voice low. "Yes, that's my son, Sang-jun." The two of them sat by the bed, their eyes fixed on Go Sang-jun. Shin Haun asked worriedly, "May I know what happened?" The shopkeeper calmly replied, "You may." Then he looked at his son, his voice heavy. Sang-jun violated the ultimate taboo of a mage. His expression became unusually stern. Shin Haun was curious. "What is that taboo?" the shopkeeper explained. "During the process of mana circulation, he committed the great taboo of the mage world, channeling mana into the brain." Hearing this, Shin Haun was shocked. He suddenly remembered, circulating mana into the brain. Hadn't he done the same thing? Shin Haun clenched his fists and pressed. "Why would he do that?" The shopkeeper sighed. "It was necessary to prove a theory that had fallen apart midway. He said there was no other way but to channel mana to the brain." He looked at his son, his eyes filled with regret. "I should have stopped him at all costs." Shin Haun glanced at Go Sang-jun, wondering inwardly just how close this man had come to high-level magic. Suddenly, the shopkeeper spoke. "Anyway, I'm sorry I can't satisfy your curiosity. Sang-jun would have been very happy to talk with you." Shin Haun felt apologetic. "It's all right, sir. I'm sorry for bringing this up and making you sad." The owner patted his shoulder comfortingly. "Don't worry. I know you're very diligent and truly love books. Your constant search for magic books reminds me of Sang-jun, which makes me happy." As the sunset painted the sky red, Shin Haun nervously asked the shopkeeper, "Sir, may I see the books your son used for his research?" The shopkeeper rubbed his chin thoughtfully and replied, "You mean Sang-jun's books? All right. Rather than letting them rot, it's better to give them to someone who needs them. But I have two conditions." Shin Haun swallowed hard, feeling anxious. The shopkeeper continued, "First, if you read his books and write a paper on spatial magic, can you credit Sang-jun's name just one time?" Shin Haun immediately agreed. "Of course, sir. I will definitely do that." The shopkeeper nodded in satisfaction. "Good. Second, under no circumstances are you to recklessly circulate mana into your brain." Shin Haun felt a pang of guilt and stammered a lie. "Yes, sir. I promise I will." The shopkeeper led Shin Haun to a room. "These are the books Sang-jun studied." While the old man was looking for something, Shin Haun suddenly noticed something strange. He stared at the book in front of him, thinking, "There's something about this book." Suddenly, the book fell off the shelf on its own, flying straight down to his feet, startling Shin Haun. He thought to himself, "It looks like the Idris book." Shin Haun quickly picked up the book and asked, "Sir, what is this book?" The shopkeeper recalled and answered, "Ah, that's the book Sang-jun always carried with him. As if it were very important. Go ahead and read it. Perhaps everything you're curious about is in there." Shin Haun carefully held the book, replying, "Yes, sir." But when he opened it, he immediately complained. "The handwriting is terrible." Then he suddenly realized it was his master's handwriting. He asked earnestly, "Sir, may I borrow this book to read at home?" The shopkeeper generously agreed. "Go ahead and take it. If you need any other books, feel free to take them too." Shin Haun thanked him happily. "Thank you so much, sir." Then he asked further, "Are there any other books written like this?" The shopkeeper thought for a moment, and then shook his head. "I'm not sure." Shin Haun still didn't give up hope, asking, "Have you ever seen an expensive-looking book with a red cover?" The shop owner replied, "I can't say I have. My little bookshop rarely stocks such items." Shin Haun grew even more suspicious. "Then how did Go Sang-jun get that book?" Despite his slight disappointment, he said politely, "I see, thank you, sir." On his way home, Shin Haun couldn't stop thinking about how strange it all was. What had happened? How did the eye-dress book end up in his bag? Once home, he sat on his bed, carefully studying the book and reminding himself that he had been searching for Sang-jun's research, but had only found one that looked similar. Holding both books, Shin Haun smiled in relief, thinking that it was better than finding nothing at all. Suddenly, both books began to glow simultaneously. Shin Haun was startled, panicking inwardly. "What's going on? Why are they glowing like this?" A powerful force started pulling him into the books, as a voice echoed, "I have left this book for the worthy heir of Idris." The familiar sensation made Shin Haun cry out. Not again! I'm being pulled into a book again! The voice continued. This is the Book of Mia. Enjoy the blessing of knowledge with all your heart. Shin Haun instantly recognized his master's voice and sighed. I've been pulled into a book again. The light from the books faded, and Shin Haun was sucked inside before he could resist. In the room, only the two books remained, lying side by side. Shin Haun awoke in a cozy, simple yet elegant room. He looked around in a daze, wondering, where am I? Suddenly, from behind, a pair of long, slender, pale hands gently touched his neck. Shin Haun turned around to see a beautiful girl with a bright smile, who greeted him. There you are. Welcome to the Book of Mia Mia? Startled, Shin Haun asked, who are you? The girl cheerfully replied, Oh, I am Mia. She then introduced herself briefly. I am the administrator of this place. Me as well. It's a pleasure to meet you. Air. She extended her hand toward him with a gentle smile. Shin Haun was still confused. Me as well, Mia quickly explained. That's the name of this library, she continued proudly. This is the Library of Idress, prepared for the future heir, a library exclusively for the successor. Shin Haun looked around in amazement. This is a bit small to be called a library. Mia smiled knowingly. That's because your achievements are still few. Here at Mia Mia as well, the size changes depending on the successor's level. Judging by the size, it seems you haven't passed the second trial yet. Am I correct? Shin Haun nodded. Yeah, that's right. Suddenly, Mia's expression turned serious. If I may ask, can we speak casually from now on? Shin Haun was confused. Mia quickly explained. Since we'll be seeing each other often, it would be strange to keep speaking so formally. So let's be more casual with each other. Shin Haun readily agreed. All right, let's do that. Mia praised him. You're quite a talented successor. You've already reached the second circle and found me this quickly, Shin Haun said helplessly. I don't see how finding you is a good thing. Mia gave a sly smile. Because it means you can progress smoothly without any issues all the way to level 5. Shin Haun was horrified. Level 5? How is that possible? Knowing he wouldn't believe her, Mia immediately showed off her abilities. She closed her eyes, manipulating the energy in her body. A book flew toward them, riding a stream of light from her. She confidently caught it and handed it to Shin Haun. Go on, read it. You'll understand. He quickly skimmed the pages and realized it was a detailed theory on resonance. Seeing that he understood, Mia excitedly continued. This place is filled with information not found in the codex, just like the book you're reading now. Shin Haun wondered. Why isn't all of this in the Idris Codex? Mia praised him. Excellent question. Then she explained. The trial pages were getting overloaded. There was too much content for the successor to verify, so only the essential information was kept in the book, and Mia's well was created as a supplement, Shin Haun understood. So my master recorded the more detailed content in Mia Mia's well, Mia cheerfully confirmed. Exactly, if the book is the summary. This is the detailed course material. Shin Haun nodded. I get it. He looked around and asked, so all the books here contain dense information, and as my achievements grow, the number of books will increase as well, Mia enthusiastically confirmed. Precisely. So, how about it? Do you see the path to the 5th circle now? Shin Haun clutched the book and said confidently, Of course. With this, I can easily pass the second trial. Shin Haun diligently studied the instructions in the book, filled with determination. He lay in a formless space, floating amidst a mystical landscape, his mind gradually focusing on the numbers and magic spells. 79 circles, he thought with indescribable joy. Synchronizing 100 magic circles for the second trial used to take me a full 8 hours, but ever since I found Mia Mia as well, I can now handle 79 circles in a single attempt. Shin Haun sat up, slowly recalling his recent struggles. Everything has been so difficult lately, but now I'm confident I can complete all 100 circles. By tonight at the earliest, or tomorrow at the latest. At this thought, his resolve hardened, and he couldn't help but feel grateful. Finding the Book of Mia Mia before the Olympiad is truly a huge stroke of luck. The scene shifts to a starry night. At the Shin family mansion, Shin Haun anxiously followed a maid, wondering nervously. Why would father summon me at this hour? Could it be a reward for the incident with B Huck? He recalled the image of B Huck lying motionless on the ground, but quickly grew annoyed by the long walk. I was planning to spend the whole day in Mimi as well after class, so why did it have to be now? Anyway, This is important. As a maid led him to a room, she announced, Master, Han has arrived. Shin In-hyuk immediately spoke. Come in. Shin Han entered and bowed his head. Father. Shin In-hyuk looked tired, his brows knitted together as he said gravely, Sit down, I'll get straight to the point. Unlike last time, he was direct. This time, you didn't contribute 100%, but it's undeniable that you contributed more than half. Combined with the previous time, your share of the mana stone mining rights is 26%, Shin Han nodded, showing he understood. Yes, Shin In-hyuk continued. You have brought great profit to the family, so you deserve a reward. He asked seriously. Is there anything you want? Shin Han quickly seized the opportunity. Yes, there is. He stated his desire directly. I want the ancient relic stored deep within the family's vault. Shin In-hyuk's brow furrowed slightly, briefly surprised by his son's request, but he didn't refuse, instead asking, An ancient relic. Very well. But you don't believe those fanciful stories about hidden secrets within them, do you? They're just artifacts, Shin Han replied firmly. No, I don't think so. I don't care about the legends. But I believe that even myths hold a grain of truth. Shin In-hyuk sighed with a hint of resignation. You're still too young to believe in such foolish things. But if that is your choice, I will respect it. However, you may only take one item, Shin Han replied joyfully. Yes, thank you, Father. Shin In-hyuk asked. So which ancient relic do you want? Shin Han answered politely. I want the one in the family's treasure vault. It was a beautiful cloak in ethereal shades of purple and white, the cloak of Baeneo, in the treasure vault of the Archmage family. Shin Han stood beside his father, watching as he received a rectangular box magnificently inlaid with gold patterns. He placed the box gently on a table and said in a low, warm voice, I hope you won't regret this decision. Han bowed his head as he took the box, replying, Yes, thank you, Father. As soon as he finished speaking, his father glanced at him with a look of both worry and concern before sighing. You're too young to believe in such strange things. Just keep up your training so you won't have regrets if you decide to turn back later. Han smiled gently and tilted his head. It's all right, Father. After receiving the box, he got into a car and left. Inside the car, Han sat with his arms and legs crossed, the box beside him. He muttered, Most of the ancient artifacts our family possesses are real. Then he glanced at the box, saying nothing more but thinking to himself, The cloak of Roy Uvo Banir. If this is really my master's cloak, then 30% of the mana stone mining rights is nothing. But is it really his? Driven by curiosity, he opened the box and wondered, what if it's a fake? When he saw what was inside, his eyes widened in utter astonishment. He nearly screamed in his mind. This is... His hand gently picked up the ethereally shimmering cloak, his jaw dropping in disbelief. Isn't this pure mana fiber? Mana fiber, a supreme technique where mana stones are refined and drawn into threads through advanced crafting technology. In the entire world, there are fewer than 30 artisans who can handle mana fiber. This wasn't something that simply used a bit of mana fiber. This entire cloak was made from it. Moreover, how could such advanced technology have existed in that era? Compared to this, recently produced artifacts made from mana fiber can't even hold a candle. I've never seen anything like it. Han truly couldn't believe he was holding a cloak made entirely from genuine mana fiber. It was incredible. After returning home, he changed his clothes and sat on his bed, holding the cloak. Suddenly, he noticed something strange on the cloak and muttered, He realized there was some writing on it. Looking closer, he mumbled, This signature. The handwriting is terrible. It's definitely my master's. I'm all too familiar with it. He held the cloak up, observing it intently, and said in amazement, But what is this? Are the inner and outer structures reversed? He thought for a moment, then continued, Usually, the inner layer is designed to enhance mana conductivity and efficiency, while the outer layer is meant to block mana conduction and minimize damage. But this cloak is this complete opposite. The outer layer enhances mana effectiveness and takes more damage, while the inner layer prevents mana depletion, reducing loss for the wearer. My master couldn't have made a mistake like this. He rubbed his chin, pondering for a moment before suddenly laughing out loud. Haha. So it was designed to be worn inside out. He placed the cloak on the bed, pressing his hand on it and muttering, Even when reversed, the structure of the inner and outer layers remains the same. He continued to think. So it was designed this way on purpose. But for what reason is this really an ancient artifact? Now I understand why father let it rot in the vault. He then took out a magic notebook, opened it, and a teddy bear appeared with 2 cakes. The scene shifts to Mimia's room, where she is sitting on a sofa reading a book. Suddenly, he appeared right in her room, calling out, "Mimia!" She looked up at him and exclaimed, "Oh, successor, you're here!" He held the cloak out to her, and the moment she saw it, she immediately stammered, Is that Dee's cloak?" As she spoke, she rushed over to him, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Wow, successor, you found it. Your luck is unbelievable." He nodded and said, "But this cloak seems a bit strange." She took the cloak and stared at it, muttering, What, huh?" Suddenly, she let out a scream that startled him, causing him to stare at her in confusion. She held up 2 fingers toward him. She asked, "Successor, you're still on the 2nd circle, right?" He nodded, wondering. "Yeah, that's right. But why do you ask?" She replied. "Then it's only natural that you wouldn't know." He pressed on. "Stop beating around the bush. How are you going to use this?" She immediately crossed 2 fingers into an X, closed her eyes, and said, "I'm sorry, successor, but I can't explain anything about this cloak." He was surprised. "What, why?" She handed the cloak back to him, saying, "No, I'll return it." Then she crossed her arms, closed her eyes, and let out a soft humph. Continuing on, Baeneo-style Magic has a special spell. Suddenly, she remembered something, her eyes widening. He immediately asked, "A special spell?" She clutched her head and groaned. "Ugh, come to think of it, am I not allowed to mention the name of that spell?" "Right, forget it. Baeneo-style Magic has a special spell, a magic called True Magic." He was astonished. "True Magic," she confirmed. "That's right. It's different from the magic you're currently using." "This is what real true magic is?" he asked again. "So the magic I'm using isn't real," she replied. "Well, unfortunately, that's the correct way to put it. As for this true magic, can't reveal anything until you, the successor, reach a certain level." He rubbed his chin and asked, "Is it some kind of restriction?" She nodded. "Yes, this cloak is a relic that exists to support true magic." He sighed. "So I can't get any explanation about this cloak. That's it." She gave a cool smile. "Exactly. You catch on quick, successor." He asked further. "So what level do I need to reach to get an explanation about this cloak?" She held up 5 fingers. "That would be the 5th magic circle." He stared at her, astonished. She explained, "You must master the 5th magic circle and overcome many trials. Baeneo-style Magic truly begins once you've mastered the 5th circle." Magical letters flew out of the spellbook. With a determined gaze, Shin Haun swung his arm and counted, 98, 99, 100. As he finished, a burst of fireworks went off. He was drenched in sweat but wore a satisfied smile, having finally succeeded. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Congratulations!" He looked around, bewildered, then recognized the voice. "Master," the person replied. "It was a tough struggle to pass this 2nd test. You did well. Now, I will teach you how to cast the 3rd circle." He rubbed his wrist, repeating, "The 3rd circle," the other person explained. "The 3rd level of Baeneo-style Magic, the 3rd infinity circle, intersection." His eyes widened as he stammered, "The intersection circle." Then he closed the book with a humph. Back at his bed, he held it in his hands, thinking, "So I've mastered the 2nd test. Now it's time to practice the intersection circle." He stood up, holding 2 books, and said cheerfully, "Without Mia's cloak and book, this test would have taken much longer." The night before, at Mia's well, he recalled her words. "You can only use it once you've mastered the 5th circle and passed the 5th test. In Baeneo Magic, true power only manifests after mastering the 5th circle." Hearing this, he had sadly rubbed his chin, closed his eyes in thought, and said, Well, can't be helped. Until I reach the 5th level, I'll have to put this cloak away." Mia, standing beside him with a pout, pointed at him and said, "Wait a minute, successor, what are you talking about? Why would you let something so precious waste away in storage?" Hearing that, he asked back, "Then what am I supposed to do with it?" "The inner and outer layers of the mana fabric have been reversed, so it's useless now." After hearing that, she snatched the cloak from his hands and said angrily, "Oh, then just give it to me!" She draped the cloak over herself and said excitedly, This cloak has the ability to keep mana inside, preventing it from escaping, which helps you achieve a state of mana saturation. He was amazed by what she had just said, and she continued. When your mana is saturated, the infinity circle will spin faster than usual, meaning the amount of mana flowing to your brain will also increase. In other words, your brain will benefit from this excess mana, allowing for faster mental recovery, similar to relieving accumulated fatigue in the body. He took the cloak back, exclaiming in amazement, "Ah, I get it. If I wear this cloak, I can reduce my sleeping time, right?" She immediately replied, "And you say you get it?" She gave a mysterious wink and said, "Wearing this cloak, you won't need to sleep anymore." He was utterly astonished, unable to believe something so good could be true. He exclaimed, "Huh, no need to sleep at all," she confirmed. "That's right, just by wearing it for about 5 hours a day, you can maintain your best condition. Besides, this is just a side effect, so I can tell you about it. Successor. Because this isn't the cloak's true power." At this point, he was full of excitement and anticipation to try out the cloak's side effect, his face beaming as he grinned and said, "I can't wait to master the 4th circle." She spoke up again to remind him, "But you know this only works for you. Right to others. It's a poison, so don't lend it to anyone." He laughed and replied, "Of course. I know. With an item like this, the upcoming test will be much easier." 2 days later, Shin Haun was wearing the familiar cloak, his eyes shut in deep concentration. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, his gaze thoughtful and contemplative. His hand turned the pages of a book as his inner monologue played. "I've tried so many times, but I still feel like something is missing. It feels like I'm close to grasping the secret of the intersection circle. But the book says that intersection, the 3rd circle in Baeneo-style magic, possesses the power to dominate another person's mana. To perform it, one needs to achieve 100% synchronization with the opponent's mana." After reading, Han wondered, is this the definition of the intersection circle, the ability to control someone else's mana? At that thought, he couldn't help but grin. He mused, "This sounds interesting, doesn't it?" He recalled his previous training sessions, thinking, "Honestly, I wasn't expecting much. I never thought the 2nd test was just a stepping stone to practice the intersection magic circle." Not stopping there, he continued to read. To achieve a 3rd circle magic, one must combine the resonance magic circle and synchronize with the surrounding mana. His eyes lit up, and joy echoed in his mind. If I just keep resonating gradually, the 3rd circle magic will surely form. With that thought, Han stood up, clenched his fists, and exclaimed with determination, "All right, this time I'll definitely succeed." Immediately, he began to practice. Closing his eyes and concentrating, he told himself to merge all his mana and envelop it in the air. The mana saturated his body, feeling as if he was building a new house. Water spirits created by his magic floated high above. 2 streams of light, one hot red and one cold blue, emanated from his chest, enveloping his body. When the 2 streams of light vanished, the water spirits immediately flew closer, forming a house right inside his body. Mana was being absorbed, and during the practice, he could clearly feel everything changing. The spirits suddenly spoke. "Come play with us. Over here." Han heard the call, thinking to himself that he had heard the sound of mana. He reached out his hand to play with the spirits, smiling gently. "Ah, this is wonderful. So warm. I don't want to leave at all. If I've come this far, I'll succeed soon. I just need to keep resonating like this." The spirits flying around spoke again. "Ah, how refreshing. Let's play a new game. Let's create a playground. Hold hands in a circle, sing, dance, and become one." After saying that, they held hands, forming a large circle. Suddenly, Han's body broke out in a sweat, his brows furrowing slightly. "It's so hot. Even with just a 1% difference in the mana amplification rate, my body still can't absorb it. But by controlling that 1%, the mana stabilized within my body. Gradually, I reduced the amplification rate to 0.01%. The mana was quietly forming a magic circle, unnoticed by anyone. After a long period of training, the sky began to brighten, heralding the arrival of a new day. Shin Haun was slumped on the floor, a cloak draped over him. When he suddenly lifted his head, his eyes wide open, his face drenched in sweat, he stood up, his eyes filled with astonishment, and exclaimed, "It's done!" He immediately tested it, swinging his arm and shouting, "First circle magic, calm mind!" A flash of blue light emanated from his hand, without stopping. He continued, "Second circle magic, resonance. This time, The light had an added streak of brilliant red. He clenched his fist, raised it high, and laughed joyfully. Third infinity circle? Shin Haun swung his arm, his face radiant as he shouted. This is the third infinity circle. Disruption. With a flushed face and eyes sparkling with success, he thought to himself, I finally completed the third circle. Disruption. I need to get stronger as fast as possible to reach the level of a 5-circle master. The scene changes to a lush green forest, where the leaves form a canopy overhead. On a large tree branch, a man was resting. Little birds, completely unafraid, perched on his stomach. It turned out to be Han. He was resting with his eyes closed, constantly thinking. A survival combat test. It was a large-scale test held in a vast training area in the mountains of Gangwon Province. The duration was 32 hours, and all students were equipped with a special item. He raised the watch on his wrist to look at it, which displayed a location and a request. A simple test where you just had to survive for as long as possible in a gradually shrinking area for 32 hours. After reading, he muttered, Time to move. If there's anything different, it's that you not only have to survive monster attacks but also face other students. Of course, you have to survive to earn points. The birds perched on him, as if sensing he was about to leave, flew away in unison. Suddenly, Kang Ji-hyuk appeared behind Shin Haun, swinging his hand to summon a fierce stream of fire straight at him. His face was full of arrogance as he snuck up from behind, shouting, All right, die, Shin Haun. As quick as a flash, Shin Haun leaped off the branch, successfully dodging the attack. He landed right in front of his opponent, but Kang Ji-hyuk remained overly confident, continuing to taunt. Nice dodge, but I've already got your rhythm down. Shin Haun didn't bother to respond to the meaningless provocations. His fist clenched. He charged straight at Kang Ji-hyuk. The opponent immediately created a barrier, smirking. Idiot, what can a mere punch do? A cold glint flashed in Shin Haun's eyes. He immediately used the disruption magic he had just acquired, touching the barrier. In the blink of an eye, the barrier cracked and shattered into pieces. Kang Ji-hyuk's jaw dropped, unable to believe his eyes. What? The barrier disintegrated, sending him flying backward and slamming hard onto the ground. He gritted his teeth and muttered, My barrier lost to something like an earth spike. Shin Haun stood there, looking down with a cold gaze. You idiot! What's there to be proud of in a sneak attack? And you even shout while attacking. He shook his head, unable to believe his opponent's foolishness, and rubbed his neck in exasperation. He clenched his fist, feeling the power that had just shattered the barrier, thinking to himself, So this is the power of disruption. It weakens the core of the 2-circle barrier magic and pierces it with the 1-circle earth spike magic. The image of the shattered barrier was still vivid in his mind. Meanwhile, Kang Ji-hyuk was now lying motionless, foaming at the mouth, his eyes rolled back. The system announced, Student Kang Ji-hyuk has been eliminated. Shin Haun turned and walked away, pressing his watch, thinking, Because he let his guard down. Everything went perfectly and naturally. The system on the watch announced, Shin Haun receives 10 points. Upon receiving the points, he looked up at the sky, smiling excitedly. What a great start. He continued walking, thinking to himself, I think I've gotten the hang of interruption. At this rate, interruption could be effective not just against 2-circle magic, but even 3-circle magic. Suddenly, a dark shadow flashed behind him. Shin Haun quickly sensed it and glanced back, only to see a giant fireball appear before him. He thought in astonishment. A fireball. Around him, a pack of ferocious wolves appeared, completely blocking his escape. He muttered to himself, Bloodclaw wolves, I'm surrounded. They were probably drawn by the sound of the previous fight. Shin Haun wasn't scared at all. He closed his eyes and said nonchalantly, If I were a normal student, I'd probably be complaining about having to fight continuously. But for me, someone who needs to overwhelmingly dominate the top rank, I'm incredibly grateful for this situation. He opened his eyes and stared at the pack of wolves, a sinister smile spreading across his face as one of the wolves let out a long howl. Shin Haun stood his ground, his voice full of challenge. Come on! Bring it on! In a room filled with monitoring screens, 2 people, a man and a woman, were watching intently. The woman suddenly spoke up. Kim Kang-hyun, Mahaki. These students are truly outstanding. If things continue like this, they'll definitely make it into the top 10. Surprisingly, it wasn't just the 2 of them. 2 more appeared. A red-haired man laughed. Ha ha ha, but isn't it very difficult to last until the very end? The woman immediately replied. By the way, it seems no one doubts Shin Haun's abilities anymore. Just then, someone asked for Instructor Go Trang-shu's opinion. He smiled gently and nodded. That's right. He's clearly not the type of person who can be underestimated and eliminated. The woman continued. Eliminated. He has excelled in the top spot in all previous training exercises, and right now, he's still leading by a significant point margin. As she spoke, she looked at the evaluation list on the screen, where his name appeared in the #1 spot with an impressive score of 5,341. What's even more amazing is how he grasped the Bloodclaw Wolf's habits and deliberately didn't kill it until it called the whole pack. That's truly an extraordinary tactic. When a Bloodclaw Wolf howls, the entire pack will rush over, even from miles away, using that habit to rack up kill points. If he keeps this up, we can definitely expect a victory at the Olympiad, the red-haired man said in an excited tone. Meanwhile, Trang-Su sat beside them, closing his eyes and smiling with pride. The scene shifts to the forest where Shin Haun was facing the wolf pack. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, muttering. As wolf carcasses lay scattered around him, he glanced at them, wondering. I probably earned about 60 points, right? Suddenly, a violent tremor shook his body. Huh! He exclaimed in shock. What is this? An earthquake! No way! The ground was moving right beneath his feet, and sharp shards of ice began to jut out. His eyes filled with horror as he stared at them. This thing is... A scream echoed in his mind. An enormous, elephant-sized figure with a back covered in emeralds turned out to be an emerald turtle. His look of terror gradually gave way to excitement. Why would such a rare monster appear here? Shin Haun quickly landed on the ground, standing right next to the turtle. The corner of his mouth curled into a challenging smile, his eyes never leaving it. This is the first time I've seen one in person. Suddenly, the turtle opened its massive mouth and roared. The scene cuts to Oberon Academy, at the evaluation tower in the outdoor training ground. In the observation room, 5 people were watching when one of them suddenly spoke up. Shin Haun and the Emerald Turtle, the platinum-haired young man explained. Initially, the goal was to escape danger, but now we're expanding the range of options. For example, having the students cooperate with each other. That's a rare monster that was placed in the main training ground. The blue-haired woman with glasses shook her head. No matter how much of a genius Shin Haun is, it's difficult to face that thing alone. Back to where he was facing the turtle, he realized that the Emerald Turtle was no easy opponent. The Emerald Turtle, an ancient reptilian monster equivalent to a C rank, 4th class, was famous for its extremely powerful defense. In particular, it was the natural enemy of mages. Suddenly, the turtle roared and stomped its foot violently toward him, but with his quick reflexes, he managed to dodge in time, escaping its sharp claws. A thought flashed through his mind. If I can catch this monster, I'll get a huge amount of kill points. However, its tail suddenly whipped at him from the side, startling him. He quickly raised his hand, creating a blue barrier at his feet, but with just one swipe of its tail, the barrier shattered. In the monitoring room, the blue-haired woman spoke. He's dodging the attacks by using the barrier as a stepping stone. The black-haired man, who was watching the screen intently, added, but the barrier isn't strong enough. The Emerald Turtle is not an easy opponent to deal with, not even for a 6th-level mage. Returning to the battle, he immediately used a fire spell, a large blaze erupting in front of him. He smirked, wondering, will this work? But the flames were quickly extinguished by the ice shards on the turtle's body. He couldn't believe it, shouting, no way! His excitement vanished, and he turned and ran, his face covered in sweat, thinking, this is not easy at all. Even a 5th-level mage couldn't take this monster down alone. He kept running, and the turtle kept chasing. He wondered, maybe it has mana inside it, so it's faster than I thought. Suddenly, he realized something. Wait, it has mana inside it. He immediately turned back, saying excitedly, oh, I think I have something to try. He lowered his hand to his feet. A stream of light shot from his hand, enveloping his legs. He thought to himself, strengthen my legs. As the turtle's mouth snapped down where he stood, he quickly dodged to the side. It seemed the streams of light helped him run faster. He thought, a force strong enough to take down a massive tree with a single ram. If I get hit, even once, my bones will have a hard time recovering. He kept running, with the turtle still in pursuit. He dodged each time it snapped down, his face filled with anxiety and exhaustion. He told himself, if I just keep running like this, I can't win. I have to fight back. Suddenly, he appeared right under the turtle's feet. Immediately, he created a larger barrier to block the Emerald Turtle's attack. His arms tensed as he supported the wall, thinking, what is this power? I underestimated it. I can't even block this attack. Resonance. He quickly generated red and blue streams of light to counter the attack. He gritted his teeth, his sharp gaze fixed on it, thinking this was a direct confrontation. After this attack, it won't be able to move until it recovers its strength. Right now. He threw his hand high and shouted, "Wind!" The shield in front of him vanished, and he appeared right before the turtle. He recalled reading in a picture book as a child that a double attack from an emerald turtle puts immense pressure on its joints. After it attacks, when it can't move until its joints recover, that's the perfect time. He leaped high into the air, staring down at the turtle. He quickly created a weapon made of ice, his eyes filled with determination, thinking this was his chance. Ice spear. The people in the monitoring room stared at the screen. Their jaws dropped. The image on the screen showed him with a sharp ice spear. He used an interruption activation spell to strike the turtle hard. It spewed blue blood from its mouth in pain. Blood flowed endlessly as its eyes went dull and it fell backward onto the ground. Its belly was pierced with a bloody hole. He stood there, clutching his chest, his face flushed, sweat pouring down, panting heavily but with an excited look in his eyes. He exclaimed in disbelief, "I won!" The watch on his wrist lit up, immediately announcing that he had received 100 points. The system announced Shin Haun had received 100 points. He smirked and exclaimed, "Awesome!" At the mansion of the magic god, in a large room. An image of him was displayed on a giant television screen. In front of the screen were two people, one standing and one sitting in a chair. The person sitting in the chair was none other than Shin In-hyu, his father, with a satisfied and proud smile clearly visible on his face. He glanced at the person standing next to him, a man with a scar on his face, and asked, "Although the emerald turtle is weak against the ice element, I still don't understand how he did it with only third circle magic. Do you know?" The other man immediately replied, "My apologies. I don't know either." "I see. And of course, there would be resistance. A food source is crucial in survival tests." On the screen, the image of his son appeared, his face filled with craving as he used a knife to butcher the turtle's carcass. In-hyu nodded smugly. "I didn't raise him to be weak." That's certainly true." Next, the image of the boy appeared again. This time he was excitedly holding a large bone with two big pieces of meat skewered on it. Running off with a happy expression, the man with the scar on his face spoke up again. "Ah, head of the family. May I ask something?" In-hyu asked what it was. The other man asked, "Why is young Master Han acting so boldly?" Clearly, if you think about the surveillance actions of young Master Ji-han and Miss C, you'd realize those actions are very malicious. In-hyu replied, "Those were all intentional actions." The other man replied, "Yes." The father explained, "In the past, when his magic was still limited, Han was naturally excluded from the family power struggle. As a result, his standing in the family has been pathetic recently. But things are different now. Han has, I don't know how, but he has obtained a great power. He's also improved significantly in the field of magic. In the 2 months before the Olympics, he requested protection from the harassment of his siblings so he could stand out as much as possible, to do something extraordinary if he had the ability. He planned to draw the world's attention and raise his status in the family, building his power base as quickly as possible. And after those 2 months of protection, he must be sure that the surveillance from Ji-han and C is no longer a concern. Such a decisive person. Back with Shin Haun, he was focused on roasting the 2 pieces of emerald turtle meat, his eyes sparkling with the joy of enjoying his meal. His hand gently sprinkled some seasoning on the meat, and he whispered, "A little more seasoning for flavor." The night sky was now filled with stars. Shin Haun was sitting on a log, holding a small piece of meat over the crackling fire. He suddenly remembered the competition's announcement. On the first day of the survival training, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., all confrontations are strictly forbidden. Shin Haun held the piece of meat in his hand, his gaze thoughtful. "I understand this rule was made for safety reasons, but if we make things this easy for the students, it would be different from the original rules and their skills wouldn't improve much. In some countries, outdoor training schools have much stricter rules than this academy, and that needs to change. However, this time we're allowed to bring magic tools, so it's lucky I can recover my strength thanks to my master's cloak." After finishing his thoughts, he relaxed, brought the piece of meat to his mouth, and said, "All right, that's that." After he finished eating, Shin Haun rubbed his stomach in satisfaction and chuckled. "I'm so full." Suddenly, he sensed a presence behind him, making him turn around cautiously. It turned out to be Xian-chan and Adela standing there. Xian-chan called out, "Shin Haun!" Shin Haun was surprised, wondering to himself, Xian-chan and Adela. Yes, The two of them approached and sat down by the fire with him. He then asked, "That's strange. How did you two manage to get out of the forest together?" Adela replied, "We fought until well past 11 in the morning." Sion Chan also added, "We didn't argue at all. I was overwhelmingly defeated." Hearing that, he rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, and then said, "And so the match ended at 11 in the morning. You must have come back because of the delicious smell." Shan Chan snapped his fingers, laughing cheerfully, and replied, "You're absolutely right." Then, both of them stared at the large piece of meat in front of them with sparkling, greedy eyes and watering mouths. Sion Chan asked, "Oh, that smell is so enticing. When are you going to share with us?" He looked at the two of them, slightly surprised, and asked, "You're not planning on leaving?" "Adela, that's my meat." The two of them immediately gave him a pitiful look. Sion Chan said, "Hey, that's not yours, it's ours." Adela also added, "Isn't that right?" Hearing their whining, he closed his eyes, sighed helplessly, and said, "All right, fine, I'll share. You should probably have some too." The two of them cheered with joy, as if they had been waiting for those words for a long time. Sion Chan held the piece of meat in his hand, closed his eyes, and said with an excited smile, "The smell is so tempting." Adela also held a smaller piece, her eyes sparkling and cheeks flushed, saying, "Thank you for the meal." Sion Chan happily took a bite. Adela also took a satisfying bite. When you're hungry, any food tastes like a delicacy from heaven. They both kept praising it. "Isn't this delicious?" "Yes, it's really, really good." Hearing their compliments was music to his ears, and he imagined himself as a famous chef, nodding along to the praise. After finishing her piece of meat, Adela stared intently at the remaining portion and asked, "Isn't this honey bear meat?" "Honey bears are monsters that live in the forest. Their meat is delicious when roasted." Hearing this, he replied, "No, it's not," she said again. "In this training area, there are only two types of monsters with edible meat, the honey bear and the emerald turtle. The others are either poisonous or tasteless, so they can't be eaten." Suddenly, she seemed to realize something and looked at him in shock, asking, "No way. Did you hunt an emerald turtle?" He calmly looked at her and replied, "Yeah, during the day, in the west." Sion Chan, who was chewing voraciously on a piece of meat, cried out in astonishment, "Really, I've only ever seen an emerald turtle online. How did you hunt it?" He was met with an annoyed reminder, "Hey, don't talk while you're eating." But Sion Chan continued to talk while chewing. "As expected. You're amazing." Adela was a bit flustered by his claim, but didn't reply. A moment later, she finally spoke up. "I've never heard of a mage below the 5th circle hunting an emerald turtle." Her gaze was serious and full of doubt. He calmly replied, "It was," and immediately began to describe how he defeated the turtle. He swung his hand and shouted, "Explosion! Fire!" A searing pillar of flame shot high into the air. Sion Chan, his face covered in sweat from the heat, stared wide-eyed at the pillar of fire, while Adela exclaimed in astonishment, "A 3-circle magic!" He stood there with his back to them, his hand still maintaining the pillar of fire. Adela shouted again, "Impossible, a 6-circle transformation spell!" He retracted the pillar of fire and glanced at them indifferently. They both looked at him with eyes full of admiration and fascination. Sion Chan said, "Whoa, that's incredible," Adela added. "It really is edible." He felt helpless at their reactions, thinking to himself that with his master's magic, even though it was only a 3-circle spell. Sion Chan asked, "Is there any other choice but to keep this a secret?" "Wow. How did you win? Did you aim for the emerald turtle's head?" He replied, "No, I just pierced it from the top of its shell." Sion Chan shouted in amazement. "What?" Then asked, "Does that even make sense?" He crossed his arms, smiled lightly, and replied, "That's what happened." Sion Chan said, "It's being live-streamed by a drone from the academy, so you can watch the footage after it's over." He smirked and replied, "Ah, no. I think they'll be the first to watch it." "Right." Sion Chan looked at him, confused, while Adela seemed to understand and just smiled lightly without a word. He spoke up, his eyes full of pride. "Tomorrow, we will fight fair and square." Sion Chan excitedly waved his arms and cheered. "Oh man, there's no way we can beat you." Adela closed her eyes slightly and replied with a small smile. "Very well, then good luck. I also have something I want to show you." As she spoke, she placed a hand lightly on her chest, her eyes opening to look directly at him. Small shards of ice appeared around her. The second day of the survival test had begun. In the monitoring room, the group of people was still sitting there, their eyes glued to the large screen in front of them, not looking away for a second. A speculative voice said, "Only 2 hours left. The survival circle has shrunk. There are only 4 people remaining now. Who will be the one to stand at the pinnacle of this fierce battle?" Shin Haun walked through the forest, hands in his pockets, his gaze focused ahead, his steps never faltering. Suddenly, something appeared unexpectedly. He immediately sensed it and glanced behind him. Instantly, he used Wind Spear, his magic transforming currents of wind into sharp spears that shot straight towards the target. A slight smile formed on his lips as he muttered, "So, we're back to the supernova stage. Are we?" Suddenly, a figure dropped from above, landing on a large tree branch. It was a young man with bulging muscles who appeared right above Han. This person didn't hesitate, immediately throwing a powerful punch down at him. Han gritted his teeth and quickly dodged the attack. But the opponent didn't stop, unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. So fast, the opponent continued to swing a kick towards him. Han ducked, dodging the blow. He placed a hand on the ground, looked up at his opponent, and thought with gritted teeth, "This is just the beginning. Close quarters combat is what I was most worried about." A roundhouse kick flew at him in an instant, too fast and too powerful. The one who had just attacked him was none other than another mage. He sneered, his voice full of challenge. "Shin Haun, running into me here is just your bad luck." Han immediately recognized him as Sang-guk, a famous close combat mage. He didn't hesitate to reply, "Sorry about that, but I think it's my good fortune." That morning at Oberon Academy, the air was thick with tension. An arrogant Sang-guk walked away after knocking out a student, leaving him motionless on the ground with his eyes rolled back. The female students watching the scene whispered with flushed faces. As expected, his body reinforcement magic is truly the strongest. Han saw it all. Suddenly, Sang-guk's gaze shifted towards him. Han thought to himself, for the past 2 years, that guy has always been one of the top 2 martial artists here. But judging from their body reinforcement magic, a confrontation between him and Sang-guk was imminent. Han's expression showed no fear. On the contrary, he felt excited. He told himself, he's not an easy opponent to defeat. Clenching his fist, Han slowly cast his spell, determined. "In that case, I'll fight him in close combat." He raised his fist and charged forward with body reinforcement magic. Sang-guk saw this, and a contemptuous smile formed on his lips. "A direct and fair fight. How foolish." In the evaluation room at Oberon Academy's outdoor training area, everyone was watching the match between Han and Sang-guk on a large screen. The two continuously exchanged and dodged blows. The judges discussed animatedly. "It seems both Shin Haun and Sang-guk have chosen to fight using body reinforcement magic." One of them spoke up. "This match is clearly in Sang-guk's favor. For the past 2 years, his combat abilities have always been top tier. He even won the International Junior Reinforcement Magic Tournament." In Hayuk, Han's father, calmly replied, "But considering the Emerald Turtle match from yesterday, Shin Haun's abilities shouldn't be underestimated." Back with Han, he continuously dodged his opponent's hand strikes. His eyes widened as he began to cast his demon eye magic. Han could clearly perceive every move his opponent intended to make. "I can see his mana flow. The mana is concentrating to reinforce his fist." He glanced down and saw Sang-guk's knee joint glowing. "No, it's moving down to his knee." Instantly, he summoned a kick-breaking shield, neutralizing Sang-guk's knee strike. Although he gained some confidence, the shield had already cracked, Han thought to himself. As expected, that was a powerful kick. But if I use a magic shield, I can push him back. Immediately after, he shattered his own shield. Surprising Sang-guk, he wondered. He destroyed his own shield. I've never seen this kind of magic before. Is this truly the return of the genius mage? Sang-guk was instantly thrilled. So the rumors weren't just talk. This is getting interesting. Han continued to attack, and Sang-guk dodged again. He thought to himself, but I have my own pride. I won't lose in a close quarters fight. He thought and smirked. Han raised his hand, thinking, now's my chance. His fist slowly gathered mana, and then he used it to punch straight at Sang-guk, forcing him to brace himself, instinctively raising both forearms in a cross block to defend. He broke into a sweat, wondering, what? Everyone in the evaluation room was instantly amazed. He blocked that punch, only In Hayok seemed unsurprised. Sang-guk then threw a kick at Han's midsection, but he quickly somersaulted away to dodge. Then he continued his offensive stance. He thought to himself. He saw through that move. His combat instincts aren't bad. They're excellent. If I feint an attack with fire magic, even if he uses defensive magic, his hands will inevitably get injured. No sooner said than done. He immediately sent a burst of fire, forcing Sang-guk to grit his teeth. Both of his hands were severely burned, hanging limply and smoking. Seizing the opportunity, he quickly rushed forward, raising his fist. This left his opponent with no time to react. So fast. Sang-guk resorted to his old block, crossing his forearms again. Han was all too familiar with that old trick and smirked. Ha! You're going to defend again. He immediately unleashed another fire attack, forcing Sang-guk to struggle against the magical assault. Meanwhile, Han swiftly moved to his opponent's other side, saying, "Your flank is wide open." This made Sang-guk frown. He thought, "Ugh, the reinforcement magic on his hand was a feint. It's a kick." Han immediately lifted his leg, a triumphant smile on his face, leaving Sang-guk with many questions. Since when could he reinforce his leg that fast? After taking the full force of the kick, Sang-guk clutched his side in pain. Groaning continuously, he muttered, "Damn it, it feels like my ribs are broken." However, the pain didn't discourage him. On the contrary, it only fueled his fighting spirit. "But I'm a warrior. I can endure this kind of pain." He let his instincts take over. Attack! Attacking is a warrior's instinct. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, he raised his fist high, aiming straight for Han, ready to strike. Han looked at him with a resolute gaze, and said softly, "If you rely too much on brute force, your body will break." Ignoring those words, Sang-guk immediately lunged forward, raising his leg for a downward kick, but Han quickly grabbed his leg, pulling Sang-guk out of the air. He asked gently, "You're getting too worked up, aren't you?" With his leg caught, unable to resist, and losing his balance, Sang-guk desperately tried. His feet landed safely on the ground. However, things weren't that easy. The moment Sang-guk lost his focus and balance was when Han counterattacked. Sang-guk took a full hook, screamed in pain, and fell backward. Han looked at Sang-guk, who was dizzy, foaming at the mouth, with his eyes rolled back, and breathed a sigh. He slowly analyzed that in that instant. The guy had concentrated all his mana under his chin to minimize the damage. Looking back at Sang-guk, he now looked no different from his previous opponents, only able to lie on the ground groaning meaninglessly. Han smiled, using the hem of his shirt to wipe away his sweat. But his combat instinct predictions were excellent, not just in attack, but also in defense. He really wasn't easy to deal with. Then he turned on his two-way screen watch, which announced that 100 points had been added, along with a congratulatory message. The sky quickly darkened, and the surrounding forest area gradually shrank due to the ring of light. Han checked his watch, frowning slightly. Only 3 people were left. Then he mumbled, a bit tense, "No, now there are only 2 people left." Suddenly, a familiar figure approached. "Good evening. It's a beautiful night, isn't it?" The second person was none other than Adela. Han would fight her as if history was repeating itself inside the Shin clan's high-rise building. On a large screen, a video of the battle between Han and Sang-guk was playing. Se-a and Jihan sat at a table, watching intently. C.A. said in frustration, "No way. In a nationally televised academic test, a guy like him becomes the last survivor. We didn't interfere at all. But he's clearly getting out of control." She nervously bit her nails and continued, "At this rate, Han will become a candidate for succession again. No, this is unacceptable. Absolutely not. Absolutely not." "Right, brother." Jihan silently looked at Se-a. She frowned, annoyed. "Say something. He took down that emerald turtle by himself. How could he possibly defeat the emerald turtle?" "This is a live broadcast test. And not only that, but Father definitely watched it too. Our entire family did as well." Se-a slammed the table and stood up, unable to contain her anger. Jihan could only sigh. "Se-a, please calm down a bit." No. How can I calm down in this situation?" Se-a's eyes widened in surprise. Jihan became cold, his gaze filled with warning. He raised his hand, causing Se-a to shrink back in fear. Stammering and trembling, I'm sorry, brother. I'll shut up. Please don't punish me." Jihan sneered. "Why?" Then he smiled gently, patting Se-a's head with his hand, pretending to be kind as he asked, "What are you talking about? Se-a, why would I punish you?" Se-a's face looked up, but Jihan's smile was no longer simple, but had become terrifyingly creepy. "Are we siblings?" "Ah." He removed his hand from her head and covered his own face. Se-a knelt, her voice trembling. "Thank you, brother," Jihan said. "Han, that guy always stands out. Takes all the good opportunities. We are siblings, but if he keeps disrupting everything like this, we can't just let it be. A cruel smile appeared on his face, turning back to the forest where the match was taking place. Flames erupted fiercely after a terrible explosion. Adela quickly cast her spell, creating a magic circle and shouting, "Moonlight bloom!" She confidently declared, "I won't fall for your tricks this time, because today I've watched your battle dozens, even hundreds of times." She quickly deduced, "In that match, you pulled the sun to your side, right? But tonight will be different." The night sky gradually brightened. Adela's hands slowly channeled mana to prepare her attack. She thought to herself, "I won't give you a chance to counterattack." Immediately, orbs of energy shot out like homing bullets, heading straight for Han, forcing him to use his evasive skills to dodge. However, one bullet still grazed his arm. Han frowned. "It's the continuous white moonlight bullets." Adela continued to cast her magic relentlessly. He immediately realized the number of shots was completely different from the midterm evaluation. It was impossible to dodge them all. Adela spoke up. "Magic users who focus on control and skill are at a disadvantage against simple long-range barrages." Her eyes lit up. Adela pointed her hand at him and shouted, "This is your weakness. I will surpass you in skill, effort, everything." Right after that, a barrage of bullets from her small magic circles rained down on Han, so many that they created a massive explosion. Han took a sharp breath amidst the thick smoke and dust. More bullets continued to fly, forcing him to use a shield to block. He muttered, "Weakness or whatever," while thinking to himself, "This is just using pure brute force to push me into a disadvantageous position." What kind of analysis and decision did you even come to? Meanwhile, Adela was still proud of herself. She thought, "He's using multiple shields to block from multiple angles. Of course, even throwing all the resources one has into this battle is something not everyone can do. The air of the prestigious Shinbaekwi clan is truly different." Han smiled, and he said, "Adela, since when did you reach the fourth magic circle?" She continued to cast her magic. Han acted normal, but had already prepared a spell behind his back. "Ice Sink." Adela finally stopped. She said, "As expected, you noticed immediately." He thought to himself that he needed to cover his attack with a smokescreen. The snowflake from his magic slowly flew towards her. Adela confidently declared, "4 days ago, I reached the fourth magic circle." And it didn't stop there. She closed her eyes tightly, slowly summoning a powerful technique. The moon high above suddenly shone with a strange light. From the sky, an arrow of light shot down as if from a moonbow. Adela said decisively, "I won't fall for such obvious tricks anymore." She quickly reached her hand back, and immediately, a bolt of lightning struck down from the crystal, creating a breakthrough effect. Adela's eyes were now sparkling with a 4-pointed star. Han's eyes widened in amazement. "That's the mind's eye," he exclaimed. "Not only has she reached the fourth circle of magic, but she's also mastered the mind's eye. Isn't this overkill? The mind's eye is a secret magic of the prestigious star family on Adela's maternal side in France. It's a form of mystic eye with detection abilities, similar to the ruby eye of Kim Kang-hoon, the master of the Blue Tower. Adela was now a perfect combination of the Sinbak family's power and flexibility and the Star family's explosive strength, making her a formidable opponent," Han whispered. "She's truly a monster in human form. Now, I'll have to use everything I've got to face her." Adela's eyes blazed as she declared, "I'm not foolish enough to hold back against you." Instantly, she extended her hand, creating 4 magic circles, each emitting a powerful blast of energy toward Han. Adela asked, "The magic you used to defeat the Emerald Turtle, when are you going to use it?" The 4 energy blasts, resembling 4-pointed stars, grew larger as they approached him. At the last second, Han smiled and said calmly, "Ah, I was just about to use it." His pupils dilated. A flash of light appeared, and he shouted, "Mystic Eye!" A massive stream of information appeared before his eyes. Adela's Moonlight Bullet light attribute mana at 27.74, dark attribute mana at 71.33, water attribute mana at 9, cast 12 consecutive times using the Zelink Pine formula and focused through the spiral of the Ferdinand equation. Disrupt, instantly. The 4 energy blasts easily changed direction and plunged straight into the ground. This left Adela utterly astonished. The Moonlight Bullets' trajectory was altered, causing them to miss just before hitting their target. "What did you do?" "How?" Han chuckled in response. "Adela, from your perspective, what do you think I did? Can you see it with your mind's eye?" That evening, at the Mage Council's mansion, a man raised his wine glass. Inhayek glanced over as the man stammered, "Inhayek, What kind of magic was that? What on earth is that magic that can interfere with a spell so absurdly? His face showed extreme concern. It was Vicky Sangchan, the head of the Mage Council and also Adela's father. On a large screen, the battle between the two was being broadcast live. Their fathers were the audience, watching every move. And Hyuk simply replied, "Well, I don't know either." Sangchan continued curiously. "Didn't Han tell you anything?" In Hyuk shook his head. "No, nothing at all." Sangchan sat down and exclaimed, "How surprising! To think Han would keep secrets from you." Hearing this, In Hyuk smiled. "For over a year now, he's become fearless. He's hiding a lot of secrets from me now." Sangchan nodded. "I understand. After all those years away from home, Han must have changed a lot." In Hyuk agreed. "Yes, he's changed a great deal." Sangchan then asked, "Well, isn't it true what they say, that a man must travel far to truly mature?" He rubbed his chin and said sincerely, "To be honest, I thought he was just lucky during the last midterm evaluation." He hesitated for a moment. "Well, in Hyuk, I thought that kid, Han, would be a flash in the pan." In Hyuk didn't argue, but instead agreed. "That's not wrong, I understand. After all, Han was always the underdog." Sangchan continued his analysis. "When he beat our Adela before, it wasn't entirely because his magic was stronger. He won thanks to his intellect, strategy, and his own unique techniques. Soon, people will dissect every piece of information about Han, and once they figure that out, his weaknesses will be exposed. He'll soon lose his advantage." In Hyuk nodded. "Yes, especially since Adela is a master of information analysis." Hearing the compliment, Sangchan added, "Absolutely. My daughter's analytical skills are top-notch." Then he bowed his head in admission. "However, it seems I've underestimated the boy." Sangchan continued, "I'll always be grateful to Han. When my daughter first lost her sense of purpose, her eyes were completely empty and lifeless. But now, her eyes are sparkling more than ever before." He smiled and added, "I'm truly grateful that Han has returned. Adela has started to regain her motivation as well." And Hyuk kept his eyes glued to the screen, watching his son continue to fight. He smiled in agreement. "Yes, that's certainly something to be thankful for." Just then, an announcement blared from the speakers. "The survival battle has concluded. All survivors, please cease combat immediately." In the thick fog left by the fierce battle, Han stood shielding his eyes, trying to see through the mist. Both he and Adela had stopped fighting, leaving only the scars of their clash on the ground. Adela wiped away her sweat and breathed a sigh of relief. Han spoke up. "What a shame. If we had more time, I probably would have won." "Not backing down," Adela retorted. "No way. From any angle, I clearly had the upper hand." Neither of them would yield, their gazes locking as if trying to pierce through each other. Chang-Su quickly stepped in to mediate. "That's enough. You two, calm down. Let's head back." The match ended in a draw. The next day at the academy, Adela met Han and declared, "I was the winner yesterday." Han frowned and replied, "In your dreams, as always. I was the one who won." His stubbornness annoyed Adela. "Since when is it always?" she continued. "Little by little. I was figuring out your magic tactic of shifting trajectories. Another 5 minutes would have been enough." Han was just as fierce. "And you 5 minutes would have been enough for your mental energy to run out, and you would have lost." Jiang-chan, sitting behind them, could only shake his head. "Seriously. Hey, if you're going to argue, do it in your own rooms. Don't be so loud in my room." His complaint was immediately met with a retort from both of them. "What do you know to butt in? You were the 26th one eliminated." Sion Chan fell silent, just crying and turning on the TV. "But this is my room. I just wanted us to review the battle recording together." On the table, food and drinks were already laid out, from banana milk and soda to pizza. He said, "Let's have a party. How can we not have banana milk?" I even prepared pizza, French fries, and drinks. Sion Chan, of course, threw a tantrum and cried. Seeing his thoughtfulness, Adela quickly sat down properly, while Han also sat neatly beside her. He said, "Sion Chan, you're blocking the entire screen." Sion Chan felt even more aggrieved seeing how quickly they changed their attitude. Han urged, "Come on, hurry up. We have to watch it from the beginning." Sion Chan shouted, "What, 14 hours? That's insane." In the end, they watched the entire recording. 14 hours later, at night, Han and Adela were still engrossed in the TV while Sion Chan had fallen fast asleep on a pillow. In his sleep, he mumbled, "Ugh, what an information analysis monster." Hearing this, Adela let out a soft chuckle. Han asked curiously, "What are you laughing at?" She quickly covered Sion Chan with a blanket so he could sleep better and replied, "I'm laughing because it's just too funny." After that, she sat back on the bed and said, "Having to watch a 14-hour analysis video?" Han laughed and said, "That's really something else." Adela continued, "Honestly, I thought he'd give up and run for the hills halfway through." Adela smiled warmly. "You have a really good friend." Han rested his chin on his hand and said, "He's the best friend in the world. A super, super good friend." Adela suddenly became regretful. "I'm sorry." Han was surprised. "What's gotten into you all of a sudden?" Adela replied, "For a whole year, I pretended not to know you, wanting to keep my distance yet also wanting to hold on. But now, I see that all my previous decisions were wrong. I'm sorry." Han smiled and replied, "Why are you apologizing? I was the one who rejected your signals. I was the one who chose to keep my distance." Adela said, "Don't worry about it. I also chose to keep my distance from him at first." Han said this while looking at Sion Chan, which surprised Adela immensely. Even Sion Chan was woken up by the shocking news. He shot up and asked awkwardly, "What is what you said true?" Adela was startled. "Ah, you're awake since when?" Han sighed. "He's been awake for a while. It's fine, it's fine." Han then said, "I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I have new strength." Both Adela and Sion Chan were surprised. He continued, "And I have reliable friends. I have something I want to show you two." Immediately after, he separated his hands, and an orb of energy slowly formed. Adela's eyes widened in surprise. "That's it." Sion Chan's jaw dropped in awe. "No way." In his hand was an orb of energy. Its name was the Moonlight Bullet. Han smiled and replied, "That's right. This is my magic." Sion Chan stammered, "You mean your interference magic can target an opponent's magic formula?" Han replied to Adela with confidence, "That's right. I also possess the God's Eye, which can see through magic formulas." Adela asked again in surprise, "God's Eye? So that's how you knew my secret?" Han nodded. "Yes. Normally, secret techniques are not passed outside the family. This is something I analyzed and developed myself. Of course, I had to observe it many times at close range to see if it would work." Adela continued to wonder. "Then how did you pierce the emerald turtle's shell?" Han explained. "Also with interference magic, I interfered with its shell and reduced its durability. That shell was actually created from magic." Sion Chan raised both hands in admiration and said, "You really are a monster." Han then asked, "There's no need to explain again how I bent the trajectory of the Moonlight Bullet, right?" Adela thought for a moment and then said, "If the condition for using interference magic is to completely understand the opponent's magic, then it's not that you didn't use it from the start, but that you couldn't." Han smiled and nodded. "Exactly. You catch on quick. In this match, you focused entirely on using the Moonlight Bullet, which allowed me to analyze your mana. Of course, if you had used it along with other spells, I would have been in trouble." Adela sighed, not realizing that using the Moonlight Bullet was a fatal risk. She asked again, "Does that magic have any other weaknesses?" Han replied, "Well, the mana analysis calculations are quite complex, so I can only interfere with spells that are right in front of me. In a real battle, there isn't enough time to calculate, so I can only slightly alter the trajectory," he said while casting the magic in his hand. Adela made a magical gesture to illustrate and asked, "What about rotating an opponent's magic 180 degrees and sending it back?" Han just replied that there wasn't enough time, so it's impossible. Hearing this, Adela expressed her regret. "Really? What a shame. If it could be reflected, its effectiveness would be incredible. But it's still an incredibly powerful magic as it is." Suddenly, Shan Chan interrupted. "Wait, hold on!" He angrily got in Han's face and yelled, "You sit still and listen to me! Tone it down! Why are you so casually revealing all the details of this powerful magic?" Han then wondered. "You don't get it." Even Adela turned to ask him, "You don't know?" This made Sion Chan sweat even more. "Huh. What are you guys talking about? I don't understand at all." Han and Adela said in unison, "The Olympics." It was only then that Sion Chan realized the key point. He immediately said, "I'll take you guys to the Olympics. Just give me a hand." Immediately, Sion Chan's eyes widened as he called out to Han. He quickly raised his hand, but Han responded right away. "Oh, Sion Chan, go ahead." Sion Chan bowed his head, a bit hesitant. I can understand, Adela, but I don't have the skills to join such a major tournament. Even the third-year students are participating." I mean, second years are one thing, but with 7 classes of third years, securing a spot for the academy is a bit tough for me. Han nodded and just told him not to worry, that it would be fine. Han suddenly became intimidating, sternly warning, "No matter what happens, I will make sure you get to participate." Understanding the implication behind the threat, Songjin flinched and backed away in alarm. Adela smiled and said, "Although it has many restrictions, intervention magic will be like a joker card. If it's a match to determine a winner, where you need to protect your own magic stone while attacking the opponents with cannons, invading their base, and capturing their flag, then it's basically a siege battle." After hearing this, he immediately replied, "That's right. In winner-take-all matches and siege battles, that magic is almost like cheating." Adela asked in surprise, "Is it that special? If so, do you have any other hidden cards?" Han just smiled and answered confidently, "Of course." That night, back in his room, he put on Baeneo's cloak and held the Book of Idris in his hands. Flipping through the pages, he said softly, "It's done." Then, Han placed his hand on the page and uttered, "Shall we go?" Instantly, a brilliant light erupted from the book, accompanied by glowing magical symbols. In the blink of an eye, Han was teleported to Mia's well. She looked at him with surprise and called out, "Oh, successor." Han took off his hood and replied, "I'm here, Mia." She then pointed at him, smiling as she said, "You're later than I thought. Don't tell me you didn't get first place." Han held his head high and answered confidently, "Of course I got first place. The points from the match against the Emerald Turtle were the deciding factor. Do you remember when I said I would win a gold medal in a competition?" Mia nodded. "Ah, I remember. The Olympics, right?" He chuckled. "That's right. I also told my friends about it and about the intervention magic." Mia chimed in. "Really? But didn't you say it would be better to master the intervention magic before telling them? You told them a bit early." Han smiled and replied, "No, I told them at the right time." Mia was surprised. "No way. You've already mastered intervention magic." Her eyes shone with admiration. "Successor, you're amazing." Han nodded. "Yeah. So, could you find me some books on the domain of destruction?" He held out his hand, requesting, "Third circle magic, destruction. It's time for me to step into this field." He clenched his fist, his eyes filled with determination. A while after returning to the real world, Han received a call from Kang Hyun. He answered the phone and said, "Yes, Tower Master." Kang Hyun spoke from the other end. "Han, I've seen your test video. It's surprising. I didn't expect you to defeat the Emerald Turtle by yourself." Han laughed cheerfully and replied, "Ha ha, it was just luck." Kang Hyun continued, "Just think, you fought on par with Adela, who has reached the 4th circle. So how did you manage to break the Emerald Turtle's shell?" Kang Hyun laughed again. "Ah, that's right. I also saw Adela's light projectile veer off course. At first, I thought it was a mana distortion field, but it wasn't." Han was slightly flustered. "Tower Master, I'm truly sorry, but I can't share the details of my magic." Kang Hyun laughed heartily. "Ha! I got a little too excited. My bad. My bad. You don't have to answer. A mage has the right to keep his secrets," he added. "But Han, your magic is truly impressive. I'll look into it myself." Then Kang Hyun remembered something. "Ah, by the way, I'm calling to tell you about the elemental magic item you requested before," Han asked. "Is it good news or bad news?" Kang Hyun beamed. "Good news. Everything is ready. Now, let's get serious." Kang Hyun was currently in his laboratory. The magic stone was placed inside a test chamber. Han was surprised. "Really? Everyone seems a bit too excited. You could have taken your time." Kang Hyun immediately started a video call, showing a panoramic view of the lab, winking at the camera and saying, "Not at all. Everyone here is a dedicated craftsman. They can't resist the allure of a new mana stone." He saw the expected result, smiling to himself. "Just as I expected. They must be working themselves to the bone." Kang Hyun continued. "You don't need to worry about the artifact's creation," Han replied. "Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it," Kang Hyun added. "All right. Talk to you next time." Han suddenly interrupted. "Ah, wait a moment," he proposed. "I have a request." This reminded Kang Hyun of Smith, and he asked, "A request? Is it about the compensation for the Lang Smith incident?" Han replied seriously. "No, that matter depends on the Tower Master's decision," Kang Hyun said excitedly. "Is that so? How interesting. I wonder what kind of proposal you'll make this time." Tell me, Han explained. For this year's Olympics, I need the artifact craftsmen from the Blue Tower to be dispatched as engineers for the national team. Hearing about the competition, Mia broke into a cold sweat. What? You're going to face a fifth circle mage, while still holding the magic book, he replied. Whew, that's the Tower Master's condition. Han gritted his teeth, wondering. Did I take this too lightly? Kang Hyun asked for confirmation. Hey, you want our craftsmen to become the official engineers for the Olympics? He simply replied with one word, yes. But the man said with a smile, but my final answer is no. This made Han feel even more awkward. He thought to himself, as expected, this isn't an easy request to grant. Kang Hyun suddenly continued, I'd like to say that, but if you, Han, win a one-on-one match against a fifth circle mage, we can talk again. This made him break out in a cold sweat, and he could only agree. Kang Hee-hun continued, You know that among the students participating in the games this year, there are 2 fifth-level mages, right? It's not that I doubt your abilities, Han, but dispatching our artisans requires an enormous sum of money. It's a bit difficult to undertake such a huge commitment just for the sake of honor. Han remained silent after hearing these words. Show us concrete proof that you can win the gold medal at the games, Mia spoke up from the other side. So, do you have a plan no matter how I think about it? As the current successor, defeating a fifth-level mage is impossible, Han said. That's why I've been given a grace period of about 10 days. She was surprised. Are you planning to master a countermeasure and settle the match within that time? He replied. Well, if there's a countermeasure, it's somehow possible, Mia said. But mastering it in just 10 days won't be easy. But do you really need to go to this extent just to get the Blue Tower to send their artisans? The guy sitting on the other side with a stack of books spoke again. Of course. Otherwise, there's no point. The only people in the country who can adjust and customize the artifacts approved for the games belong to the Blue Tower. Hearing this, Mia was impressed. That place is really amazing. Huh, she continued. There's at least a 10% difference in performance between artifacts made by ordinary artisans and those made by the Blue Tower's artisans. Moreover, the only people currently capable of adjusting light element magic artifacts are from the Blue Tower. Since the difference in artifact performance determines the win rate in the tournament, if that's the case, we desperately need their support, Han replied. Yeah, we have to get them on board. He then started selecting magic books. Ah, this book and this one too, Mia wondered. So when are we going to the third trial page? Shouldn't we hurry? He smiled, holding a stack of books he had chosen, and said, I plan to read all the books you prepared for me before we go. Mia seemed intrigued. Really? Oh, that's brilliant thinking. All right, when you enter the third mana chamber, send them my regards and tell them I'm doing fine, Han asked. Your regards. Do you know someone there? She sat down to play with a stuffed rabbit and said, It's a secret. Mia hugged the rabbits and advised, It's no fun knowing in advance. That evening, at the Shin family's skyscraper, the host began the welcome speech. Esteemed guests, today we are gathered to attend the anniversary celebration of the Masunga group. I wish you all a wonderful evening. In the lively atmosphere, people were chattering. As expected of the chairman, in another corner, Jihan was being praised by a guest. At this point, it's safe to say the chairman is almost certain to become the next head of the Masunga family, Jihan replied with a slight smile. You flatter me. I was just lucky. Ha ha. He then continued with a bright smile. Everything I have today is thanks to everyone's support. The crowd immediately chimed in. The future of Masunga is surely bright. Suddenly, someone spoke up. That's right. Besides, the young master is making a name for himself. Upon hearing Han's name, Jihan's expression darkened. He turned to look at the guest, who continued. Everyone saw it, right? Who would have thought he could defeat an emerald turtle by himself? Once a genius, always a genius, right? Hearing this, Jihan's hand, which was swirling his wineglass, suddenly froze. The person continued. Did you all see him fight Adela, who has reached the 4th level facing the lunar system's arcane arts, the secret arts of the Holy Guardian family? He even managed to hold his own. It's truly surprising. After witnessing that, who would dare call him unworthy anymore if his face were covered? Everyone would have thought it was a real magic duel between adults. Seeing that person constantly talking about Han, Jihan felt himself being pushed into the background. People began to shift their focus to the young master of the Shin family. I'm really looking forward to Han's participation in the games. Me too. The family head was also extremely pleased with Han's performance. Jihan stood frozen like a statue, the voices echoing in his ears. Han, it's Han. His face grew darker. A single sentence felt like the finishing blow to Jahan's glory. With how things are going, it looks like the position of heir might be snatched by his younger brother. He cursed inwardly. Ah, so noisy. As unpleasant childhood memories flooded back. Since he was young, Jihan had always looked at his younger brother with envious eyes. That guy. They just say whatever they want. I hate it. The one I hate the most is you. Shin Haun, I thought I had knocked you down for good, but now you've crawled back up. After the conversation ended, the guests finally noticed. Where did the chairman go? When did he disappear? On the table was a shattered wine glass. Jihan left his own party, heading to the rooftop with a frustrated expression. He yanked his tie, stood before the railing, and muttered with deep resentment. This won't do. I can't let this continue. That bastard must die. The thought of his own brother's death made Jihan feel strangely thrilled. Meanwhile, Han was sitting on a sofa, engrossed in a book. The space around him was filled with books. After finishing the last page, Han closed the book and exclaimed, Done. Mia, who was sitting at her drawing table, heard him and asked, Are you finished reading? Han nodded. Yes. If this is all of them, then I think I'm done. Mia cheerfully continued. So you've read all the books on destruction magic. Have you understood anything new? Han quickly replied. Not at all. I don't understand a thing. I still haven't grasped it. Undeterred, Mia asked again. At least you've gotten past the stage of ambiguity, right? Han thought for a moment, then replied. I can grasp its structure to some extent. Mia held up her sketchbook, explaining. It's normal that you don't understand. It's like telling someone without wings to fly. They would never understand. Right now, because you haven't met the necessary conditions, you can't understand annihilation magic. Han replied with a light smile. Your drawing is a bit messy, but I understand the point you're trying to make. Mia huffed. That's a masterpiece. Han pondered. Those conditions. So to meet them, do I have no choice but to enter the third trial page? Mia nodded. That's right. All the answers are there. Han was a bit suspicious. But is the person you asked me to greet the one who teaches annihilation magic? Mia crossed her arms, sweating slightly as she answered. If you're curious, go find out for yourself. You've already read all the books, Han continued to ask. Then can you tell me if there's some kind of restriction preventing you from talking about the third trial? Mia smiled. It's not a restriction. She remembered a very special person saying, We made a private promise to each other. Han returned to the real world, his mind full of questions. What did she promise that she couldn't reveal anything about the third trial? He put down Mia's book, picked up Idris's book, and mumbled, so this is the reason. As he flipped through the pages, they began to glow. Han placed his hand on the magic circle drawn in the book. Immediately, the effect of a tree began to sprout and grow. Branches quickly grew from the pages, large and dense, wrapping around his body. Despite the discomfort, Han remained determined. If I can hear it, I'll understand. He closed his eyes, immersing himself in the flora. In just a moment, Han was transported into a forest. He was surprised. This place is... Before him was a vast, ancient forest with absurdly large trees and dense grass. Han looked up, thinking, This is not a normal forest. These trees are ridiculously huge. Where on earth is this? He analyzed the situation. I thought I would end up in a strange space like last time, but there's no guide, and I can't hear my master's voice either. It can't be. Han started to venture into the forest. As he walked, he muttered, Could this entire forest be the trial page of forest this vast? Standing on a mountaintop, he observed the majestic landscape below. Han laughed, not believing his eyes. This is truly absurd. He turned back towards the forest, thinking to himself, the magic of my master is truly beyond imagination. The deeper he went, the denser the forest became. He told himself, No matter how far I walk, I can't see an end. When he reached a stream, the surrounding scenery was breathtakingly beautiful. He wondered, What kind of test is this anyway? Suddenly, the light under the canopy flickered erratically, and the entire forest began to shake. Han's eyes widened in alarm. An earthquake! No, this is my intuition telling me something is wrong. Something is staring at me. Han slowly turned his head, his eyes filled with fear. In front of him was a giant, prehistoric monster. It was staring intently at him. Its body was covered in hard, reddish, Steel-like scales. Its tail resembled a scorpion's, with long claws. Han frowned, thinking, "This is ridiculous. It was so close. Yet I didn't sense a thing." The monster let out a roar, and the blast of air from its mouth sent Han flying backward. He was quickly knocked into the stream, letting out a scream, completely soaked. Han looked at it in fear, analyzing. Reptilian features, armor-like scales, claws and fangs as sharp as swords. "There's no doubt this is an unranked disaster-class monster, a drake." Han stood frozen, his entire body stiff. "I thought it was just a mythical creature. Is the test to defeat this thing? That's impossible." His face was drenched in sweat. Han could only think, unable to speak or move. "I can't budge. Even its light breath makes the mana in the air tremble. This thing is on a completely different level from any monster I've ever encountered." Han frowned. "It sees me as nothing more than a lump of mana, a delicious meal. Can I even escape?" His forearm began to twitch. The monster noticed the ripple in the water, watching intently like it was hunting prey. Han thought carefully before making a decision. "No way. Even with my current speed, I can't escape from a drake. But the bigger problem is that my body won't move. If it charges at me, I'm done for." Han observed carefully. "Wait, why isn't that drake getting any closer?" he wondered as he faced it. Han voiced his question. "Is something stopping it?" Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out. "How impressive." Han quickly glanced over to see a woman in a grass-green outfit approaching. She said, "Even when facing a monster beyond your league, you didn't give up hope. Your will is ironclad. Even in a critical situation, you remained calm and composed." The woman had long, shimmering green hair. Her attire was incredibly elegant, and she had long ears. Perhaps she was a spirit. "You have passed the test. You can move now." Han was completely stunned. He stammered, "Who are you?" She smiled gently and introduced herself. "My name is Elena Greenwood, once known as the Guardian of the Forest, an archmage, and an old friend of J." Han was astonished, thinking to himself, could it be that she's a god? He stared blankly at the tall woman standing behind him. She glanced at the massive monster. "Let me take care of this first." Elena stepped in front of the beast. Han stood up, sweating and utterly bewildered. Elena began to cast a spell with her hands. She commanded, "Quietly return to where you belong, you remnant of a fallen clan." The wind from her magic swept through the forest, spreading to every corner. Han stood stunned as the grassy fields and trees seemed to move in rhythm. He wondered, is the forest resonating with itself? Elena's chest glowed brightly, a rich source of energy pouring out endlessly, as if declaring that she was the ruler of this place. She raised her hand, her voice cold. "If you don't understand my words, then return to dust." Her eyes suddenly softened, her pupils glowing strangely. At that moment, an invisible force appeared, tearing apart the monster's body piece by piece. A roar of pain echoed. Han watched the massive monster being attacked so easily, wondering where those wounds came from. That was Elena's magic. She only needed to raise her hand, and her aura would do the rest. He mumbled without a sound, seeing only afterimages. What the hell did she just do? Han couldn't believe his eyes. The open wounds on the monster's body smoked heavily after being sliced by the stream of aura. In the blink of an eye, they slowly closed, as if a healing ability was being applied, the flesh returning to its original state. The monster returned to a healthy state, without a single scratch. Elena had not only created the wounds, but she had also healed them. She warned, "This is my final warning. Go." The monster immediately became docile and turned to leave. Han broke out in a cold sweat after witnessing everything, wondering how the wounds healed instantly. That was a disaster-level being, yet this woman dealt with it as easily as flipping her hand. Who in the world was she? Elena glanced at him, a gentle smile on her lips. She asked, "Are you all right?" Han quickly replied, "Yes, I'm fine, thank you." Elena gestured and said, "I see you're quite surprised. Now, follow me." Her successor stood before her, like the radiant light of the entire forest. After some time, Elena led Han into the only wooden cabin deep in the woods, enveloped by a special kind of magic. She personally brewed a warm cup of green tea to serve him. Elena gently offered, "Please, try it. This is an herbal tea that Joe was very fond of. It will help you calm down." Han picked up the teacup, replying politely, "Thank you." He slowly raised the cup, savoring each sip. The tea's unique flavor couldn't help but surprise him, his eyes widening. After just one sip, Han felt as if he was being enlightened from within, his mind becoming strangely clear. He thought to himself, "What is this? This tea is magical. It cleared my mind instantly." He continued to drink the rest of the tea, much to Elena's delight. In just a moment, Han had drunk it all. He placed the empty cup on the small saucer. Elena asked with a look of concern, "How was it? Was it to your liking?" Han's eyes lit up as he replied immediately, "Yes, this is the best tea I've ever had." Elena smiled. "I'm glad you like it. Are you feeling calmer now?" Han hesitated slightly. "I apologize for being a bit rude earlier," she replied gently. "Oh, there's nothing to be ashamed of. The fact that you didn't give up against a dragon was quite impressive." Han pondered. "So it really was a dragon. I definitely wouldn't have been able to escape it," Elena explained. "Although it's the strongest creature in this garden, it doesn't dare come near my territory. But perhaps it was attracted by something earlier." Han asked curiously. "Huh? Attracted by what?" Elena held out her hand and said, "The dense and pure mana in your body is like a juicy piece of bait for that dragon." She sighed and continued, "In its eyes, you're like a wonderful tonic. Its hunger and craving overcame its fear of me." Hearing Elena's detailed description, Han couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. She asked again with a smile that crinkled her eyes, "Do you have any other questions?" Han hesitated. "Is this place really inside the Book of Idris? It's too real. It doesn't feel like being inside a book at all." "It took 15 minutes to get from where the dragon was to your house. This forest is massive, on a completely different scale than the previous test pages. So, where exactly is this place?" Elena calmly replied. "This place spans from page 214 to page 232 in the book, belonging to the third test page." Hearing this, Han was astonished. So that dragon was an illusion created by magic. He shot to his feet, getting straight to the point. Elena thought for a moment, seeming unsure. Who knows? It's not real, but it's not fake either." Han grew even more confused. "Huh, what do you mean?" Elena explained. "This space was created by recreating things from the past. The world inside the Book of Idris is a recreation of the greenwood forest that once existed." She raised her hand and continued, "You can think of it as a copy of the original world, so it's not entirely real, nor is it entirely fake." He looked surprised. "So they built this world based on things from the past and put it inside a book. But how could they do that?" Hearing his rapid-fire questions, she didn't seem bothered and simply replied gently, "I don't know either. The only ones who understood and could accomplish it were Day and his successor. And that successor is you. When you reach his level, you will understand how this world works." After hearing her answer, he continued with another question. "So what was the reason Master created this world?" She replied, "To pass on a type of magic to you." Han asked curiously, "What kind of magic?" Elena smiled, closed her eyes, and answered. Her green eyes opened, a shimmering light within her pupils. Han felt as if he were being drawn into the energy radiating from them. She continued, "The third-tier magic of Baeneo, a destructive type of magic. The eye that can see through the essence of magic. The holy eye. The eye that seems to see through all things. The golden eye." He stammered, "That's the Baeneo-style evil eye. The holy eye." She chuckled softly, pulling at her eyelid and said, "That's right. But my holy eye isn't perfect yet. The only ones who can completely control the holy eye are D and you, the successor. I was entrusted by D with the mission to awaken that magic. And that's why I exist, even if only as a stored memory." Returning to the hustle and bustle of the modern city, a sleek black car glided smoothly through the inner streets. In Hyuk sat comfortably, his cold voice ringing out. "Report?" Seok Hyun, who was sitting with him, quickly replied, "I will report on the matter you mentioned earlier." He began to present the details. "Young Master In Hyuk and young Lady Minji don't seem very concerned about young Master Hazen. More notably, young Lady Cha also appears indifferent. It seems your orders have taken effect," Seok Hyun continued. "Young Lady Cha has become gentler, but I don't think she'll easily abandon Hazun. Perhaps she's just being cautious because she knows your shadows are watching Hazun," In Hyuk asked. "What about Jihan?" Seok Hyun replied. "Young Master Jihan is also on guard, but only to that extent. Even at the recent party, there were no suspicious signs." In Hyuk pondered, his gaze softened. "It seems they've both learned to separate personal feelings from the common good. Even so, we must remain vigilant until the protection period ends. Keep a close watch." Seok Hyun nodded. "Yes, I understand." Then he drew a magic sigil with his hand, creating a sound barrier. He said, "This is top secret information, so I'll block the sound first." And Hyuk agreed. "All right," Seok Hyun continued. "This is a report on whether anyone in the family is colluding with the Black Tower. We investigated a total of 32 people, including the elders who were displeased with young Master Hazen's return and high-ranking officials from the branch families." In Hyuk listened in silence. Seok Hyun continued. "Regarding the Black Tower, they are clean." In Hyuk looked displeased. That meant that just because they weren't involved with the Black Tower, it didn't necessarily mean they were innocent. Seok Hyun handed him a data sheet. "That's right. Among the 32 people, there are 5 who are extremely suspicious. If things had gotten noisy, the hyenas would have caught the scent." And Hyuk examined it carefully, then said gravely, "These people, I will deal with them myself." Returning to Elena's house, she began her training session with Hazun. "From now on, we will begin the training to master the Holy Eye," Elena said. "Stand behind me," Hazen replied immediately. "Yes, please do as you see fit." Elena smiled and remarked, "As expected of Jay's successor, you're just like him in this regard." Then she gently covered his eyes, instructing, "Now, close your eyes," Hazun asked. "Like this," Elena confirmed. "Yes, from now on, I will transfer my mana into you, successor." Her voice became soft and slow. Her hand pressed against his back as she began to cast the spell. "And I will explain about the Holy Eye," Elena continued. "Normally, information about the Holy Eye can only be accessed after reaching the 4th circle. You can find it in another book." Hazun was surprised. "From the 4th circle," he thought to himself. "Even though I've read the books on destruction in the Grimoire of Idris and the Grimoire of Mimia, there was no information about the Holy Eye." He wondered, "Does that mean unless you reach the 4th circle, you can't see any information about the Holy Eye?" he asked with his eyes closed. "Perhaps the other book Lady Elena mentioned is the Grimoire of Mimia." Elena was slightly surprised. "Oh my, you know about the Grimoire of Mimia?" Hazun smiled and replied, "Ah yes, of course. I also have a message from Mimia." Then a thought flashed through his mind. "If you go to the 3rd trial page, he asked me to tell you. I'm still doing well." It must have been a private promise between the two of them. Suddenly, Elena's energy fluctuated, causing Hazun to call out to her. "Lady Elena?" Elena immediately snapped out of her thoughts. "Oh, I'm sorry." Hazun broke into a sweat, wondering. For a moment, Lady Elena's mana wavered. "Did I say something I shouldn't have?" The energy continued to flow into him. Elena smiled and said, "Ah, I apologize. So you've met Mimia. That's great. We'll talk about Mimia at a more convenient time. For now, let's get back to the topic of the Holy Eye," Elena continued to explain. "The reason the Holy Eye is revealed at the 4th circle isn't actually that important. It's also why I'm on the 3rd trial page of the Grimoire of Idris," Hazun asked. "Lady Elena," she replied. "That's right, because Jay left me here. He entrusted me with the task of explaining everything. Of course, there was also the issue of the amount of information that could be recorded in the book. Honestly, he really knows how to work someone to the bone." Hearing those words, he thought to himself, recording such a vast amount of information, Mimia mentioned something similar. Just adding the trial page and the magic formula to confirm the successor required an enormous amount of mana, far exceeding the capacity of a normal grimoire. Therefore, the Grimoire of Idris only contains the essential information, while the rest was compiled into a separate book, the Grimoire of Mimia. Elena's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and the energy she was transferring was now sufficient. Elena raised both hands and said, "Now that everything is ready, open your eyes, successor." The moment Hazun opened his eyes, his pupils shone with a strange light. "Lady Elena's mana is perfectly harmonized with my infinite circle, to the point where I can't tell which mana is mine and which is hers." He touched his sparkling eyes and said with a tremor in his voice, "Lady Elena, something feels strange." "I feel very strange." She smiled and said, "Yes, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I have blocked your optic nerves with mana," Hazan stammered. "You blocked my optic nerves," she smiled and said. "It's still too early to be surprised. The Holy Eye is the 6th sense, completely separate from the 5 ordinary senses. To train that 6th sense, the other senses are just unnecessary distractions." Ha's body began to tremble. Elena placed a hand on his shoulder, slowly saying, "Touch, smell, and taste. They will gradually fade, and eventually, even your hearing will slowly disappear." Ha's eyes widened in terror. That's right. It's starting. I can't feel anything anymore. His body slumped down as Elena spread her arms, her magic flaring powerfully. She declared, Successor, I now invite you to enter the world of death. And that's all for this video. Don't forget to hit that like button so I can bring you more great stories.